בשם השם נעשה ונצליח, שיעור תורה, ברוכים הבאים. We are שבוע טוב, שבוע מבורך. We're starting a new week. Today's shiur is going to be a different than usual Sunday. Usually Sunday we have a shiur about different specific issues as far as either emunah, bitachon. But today, because of everything that's happening in the world, especially in America, we're going to do a special shiur of questions and answers. Hopefully, the people on the internet that always want to ask questions are going to be ready with some questions, but questions relating to the topic and good questions, because we're also going to take some questions from the internet. Joshua, if you don't mind monitoring it throughout the day. And obviously try to answer the big question of now that we have so much anti-Semitism happening, is it time to make Aliyah? That's really the biggest question of all. So shiur tonight will be for refuah shlema for Levana bat Sarah, Doris bat Jora, David ben Nesriya, Esther bat Zipporah, Batya bat Sarah, and all of Am Yisrael Bezrat Hashem will have refuah shlema, refuat nefesh, refuat aguf. So, in the last week, or really since Chanukah started, there has been a violent and in some cases deadly attack on Jewish people every single day of the holiday. Just last night, for anyone that lives under a rock, if you didn't hear, there was a horrendous stabbing, a massacre in Monsey, New York, one of the most religious communities in America and in the world, at a Rebbe's house, at a Hasid's house. There was had probably close to 100 people there, and some gangster walks into the place and takes out a machete, which is slightly short of a sword, and starts stabbing people. To my knowledge, at least 4 people or 5 people were in a very, I think either died or in a critical condition, and many other people got hurt. Imach Shimo, this gangster, got away with it and ran out, went into a car, and drove away. I believe it was a gray car. Bezrat Hashem, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will pay him his deen very soon. But that was just last night. There was one the night before. There was one the night before. There was one the morning before. There are anti-Semitic attacks literally every single day, where it's becoming like Germany was right before World War II broke out, right before the Holocaust hit its peak. Before they made camps, there were ghettos where they would put and seclude the Jewish people. Before they made ghettos, they put stars on the Jewish people to make sure that you know that this person's a Jew. Part of putting the star was also all types of persecution against the Jewish people by letting people know not to do business with Jewish people, by letting people know that this business is owned by Jewish people. So any gangster that wants to take advantage of it and break the place, burn the place, and not fear any type of repercussions from the law, that's what they did over there in Germany and in other places also. Now, before this all happened, they asked the Jews of Germany about going to Eretz Yisrael, rebuilding the nation, rebuilding the country, rebuilding the Bet Mikdash. And the Germans of that day that were later massacred were Reform Jews. Over 80% of the Jewish people that lived in Germany were assimilated, were married to Goyot, Goyim, were completely heretical and against the Torah. And most of the shuls there were actually reform shuls. And when they were asked, why don't you, use all this wealth that you got here in Germany from all types of businesses that you have, why don't you go rebuild? And they responded that Berlin, the capital of Germany, is the New Jerusalem. Which means, Rabotai Karim, that before Germany became Nazi Germany, the Jews of Germany in those days felt very much at home. That when they were told, why don't you go to your real home, to your biblical home, to the home that HaKadosh Baruch Hu designated for you, they said, no, it's not our home. Our new Jerusalem is Berlin. Now, you're going to say, okay, but those were Reformed Jews. What can you expect from them? They were heretics to begin with. Okay, so you travel. You travel to Poland. Poland had somewhere in the neighborhood of 3 to 4 million Jews. Assimilation in Poland, to my knowledge, was almost non-existent. They were very religious, and they completely disassociated themselves from the Goyim, from the Polish neighbors, and lived a life that was amicable. They had some problems, but they lived separate lives. They had some neighbors that were Goyim that they would get along with, and so on and so forth. If you ask the Polish Jews of that day, do you fear that anything bad will happen to you from these Polish people? Almost none of the people that lived in that day were going to tell you, we're afraid for our life. Almost none of them. Big tzaddikim living in Poland. A lot of you Ashkenazim, your grandparents used to live, they were big tzaddikim. Sacrificed their life just to do mitzvah of tefillin. Sacrificed their life to eat kosher food. It's a shame that people don't relate to their grandparents. Don't realize that their grandparents were willing to die just to simply eat kosher food. Now these righteous Polish people, that were Jews, you ask them if you're afraid of something, tell you no, we're living comfortably, we got it's a big country, it's a big population, 3-4 million Jews in one country, it's almost like America today, but much smaller land. So Judaism is doing great. According to statistics, almost 100% of them were killed. According to statistics, those Jews from Poland suffered more than any other part of our people in the world. Almost 100% of them got killed. Shem Erechem. Huge statistics. Don't quote me on the numbers, 100%. 90, 80, I know it's a massive amount. The highest out of every other place. Now, who are the people that helped facilitate this massacre of 3 million Jews? Guess what? It was the Polish people. What do you mean? They were friends a week ago. Yeah, they were friends a week ago until they got open season to kill Jews. Why? Because it always goes back to the Torah, Rabotai. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, He is the staff, but He's also the stick. He's the staff that leads us to live in different places. He's the staff that tells us to do certain things. And when we don't do them, He's the stick. And He uses nature in order to make it look realistic. If everything that He did was supernatural, it would remove our free choice. So HaShem tries to do everything possible to avoid making miracles, open miracles. He uses nature for everything. If He wants to destroy a certain place, He could easily just snap His fingers, not that He has fingers for those that are ignorant, snap His fingers, and the place would just simply disappear. But that's not realistic, because people are going to show up there. It's like, where's this place? Where did this city go? There used to be a city here. Where did it go? They're not going to understand. They're going to think, oh, maybe it's UFOs. Maybe it's this. So Hashem, what does Hashem do? He makes a tsunami. 1 second, the sea is great. Everybody's surfing on it, having a good time. Next thing you know, 150-foot wave. Floods the whole place. Sayonara. Goodbye. No more city. City's having a good time. They have a nice park. Everybody's enjoying tourist attraction. All of a sudden, a volcano comes out of nowhere, and the whole place is one big lava. Hashem uses nature. He also uses war. He also uses leaders. Anyone that becomes a leader, Hashem simply removes their free choice when He chooses to. We see this in the Torah in multiple places. Paro, we saw that HaKadosh Baruch Hu removed his free choice. When it came to the plagues, after the third plague, HaKadosh Baruch Hu hardened his heart, which means that He removed his free choice. Sichon was another king in a Chumash, chose to attack Am Yisrael for absolutely no reason whatsoever. That's because HaKadosh Baruch Hu hardened his heart. Again, Hashem removed his free choice. Nebuchadnezzar. Kings and leaders have their free choice removed, or in essence controlled by Hashem, when He chooses. Not at all times, but when He chooses. Why? Because there is chess pieces. There is chess pieces of how to maneuver the world in order to either rebuke or reward His people. If there is a massive crisis in India, which there is right now, where it's turning into the next Venezuela, where years ago, maybe 6, 7, 8 years ago, more, almost 10 years ago, when I was still in the financial world, Shem Erachem, one of the companies that we went against, and we bet against them, that we predicted that we would fail, was a company that was doing a lot of business in Venezuela. And the reason why is because I believed, which I was right, Baruch Hashem, that they were cooking the books, which means they were cheating. Why? Why was it genius? No, simply they were calculating that the currency of Venezuela was the same value as the US dollar. And everyone knew that's miles away. And they were pricing things as if everything was okay in Venezuela, and we all knew that you can't even take money out of Venezuela at that time. But the market didn't price it into the stock. Long story short, 100% of their assets that were in Venezuela went to zero. They still ended up manipulating the market and cheating investors anyway, but the point is, Rabotai, is that Venezuela, not too long ago, 15, 20 years ago, was one of the leading economies in the world. The 12th leading economy in the world. 12th leading economy in the world. Today, you could buy the whole country for a pack of gum. Take a pack of gum. Hey guys, pack of gum, give me the country. They'll give you, hey, half a gum. We'll eat the rest. They'll have food in the streets. Why? Because these Rashaim destroyed the people, destroyed everything else. But why? Because the Kadosh Baruch Hu decided to do it. There were many Jews that lived in Venezuela, had a lot of money, and many of them lost everything they have. One day the guy has 10, 20, 30, $40 million. The next day, zero. Or to be exact, $40. Every 10 million is worth $40. Every $10 million worth $40 now. That's what happened to these people, these skinny. Whoever didn't get out in time. Why? Because Kadosh Baruch Hu wanted to do it. He put some Rasha, some Haman, to go run the country. Didn't make any sense whatsoever. In order to affect the Jews. Right now, the same exact thing is happening in India. No one's paying attention to this. This is barely on the news. I only find out because I have Baruch Hashem tzaddikim over there in India that give me all the news. Inflation in India is going through the roof. Same exact thing, repeating itself. Why am I mentioning? What's my economy lesson here? Why do I care about India right now? Because, Rabotai, the fact that it happened in Venezuela, no one really cares. Why? Even though it was a big economy, it was relatively secluded. It was a small country relatively. No one really cares. Didn't really affect the rest of the world. You can't say that about India. Why? Because India is almost 1.5 billion people. They're almost passing China for the biggest population in the world. When they crash, not if, when they crash, there'll be a massive, massive decline on the rest of the world. It'll be like a tsunami on the entire world. Why is this happening? Because Kadosh Baruch Hu wants it to happen. He put some crazy people in charge to destroy currency, do a bunch of things that don't make any sense. On Monday you buy bread for $5. On Tuesday it's 10. On Wednesday it's back to 5. On Thursday, no, there's no bread. Why? We're not really sure. All types of strange things are happening in a country. Technically, they should be prospering better than America. All these people want to work unlike Americans. All these people want to do a bunch of good things. But aside from the Avodah Zarah, most of them are relatively decent people. But what do you see? You see that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is punishing them. Punishing them for that sin of Avodah Zarah. Punishing them seriously. Why? You cannot be a decent person if you're worshipping an idol. But why? Why punish them? Oh, it's for the Jews also. Everything is about the Jews. Because the Jews are making money there. Jews are profiting from business they do in India, selling it in the US. Now people are going to think, well, I'm promoting anti-Semitism. No, Rabotai, it's the opposite. If the world knew how valuable the Bet Mikdash was for the Goyim, not for the Jews, how many of their prayers, how many of the Gentiles' prayers were fulfilled, how many blessings the Gentiles received as a result of the Bet Mikdash, the Gemara says all of the Goyim would simply take their entire armies to just protect the Bet Mikdash. They wouldn't even fight each other anymore. They would just, all of them, just go to the Bet Mikdash and just protect it, protect the Jews. Every Jew would have 50, 100,000 bodyguards. Why? Don't touch this Jew. Why? He's our prized possession. Only reason why Kadosh Baruch Hu is giving us blessings is because of him. If he's giving us curses, because of him also. This Bet Mikdash, don't touch it. But these fools don't know Torah. They worship idols. They ended up destroying the Bet Mikdash. They think they destroyed the Jews. The Jews, Baruch Hashem, are still here, but the Bet Mikdash is gone. So, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu makes certain things happen in the world, it's in essence not just a rebuke on the Jews, but it's also on the world around them. The problem that people don't understand is that both the Jews and the Gentiles are so ignorant in this generation that neither one of them knows why they're even alive. Right now, we are at times where it's simply history repeating itself. The Gentiles have decided that the Jews are the enemy. And it's open season on killing them. Open season on hurting them. Open season on disturbing their peace. The Jewish people are a peaceful people. You're never going to see that the Jewish people throughout all of history, as a nation, not as a few gangsters here and there. Everybody has a bad apple in every tree. As a nation, we're not a nation that starts wars. We're not a violent people. Someone sent me a video of some Jewish guy that went into martial arts, and after he won the match, he put on his tzitzit and he said, Shema Yisrael. He asked me, is this Kiddush Hashem? I said, no, it's Chilul Hashem. Because now people are going to think that Jewish people, they're gangsters. They fight martial arts. They're dangerous people. People are going to think that that's what you do as a Jew. Nowhere in history did a Jew voluntarily go into a martial arts fight for pleasure. Nowhere in history did you ever see a Jew go into a fight on purpose. We only fight when we have no choice. To protect ourselves. That's when we fight. And we fight good. Why? Because we have Hashem. But you go out there and go into martial arts to go make a few dollars, and on top of it, you make the desecrations of Hashem's name, thinking you're making a mitzvah, putting a tzitzit on. Hashem Yarachem Alanu. What kind of Jews we have in this generation? Oh, it's a mitzvah. No, isn't it great? You forgot what a Jew is. Or people say, oh, look, this guy, look, he's a basketball player, he's a Jew. Or he's a baseball player, he's a Jew. Isn't that Kiddush Hashem? What Kiddush Hashem about it? Where in the Tanakh is it talking about baseball? Where in the Tanakh is it even supposed to or allowed to? People have forgotten. Why? We started adapting the rules of the Goyim as our own, and we're thinking that when we find one Jew that's prospering in the Goyish world, that's a Kiddush Hashem. I'm sorry, you guys. You have no idea what Kiddush Hashem means. Kiddush Hashem has to do with Torah, not baseball, not guns, not martial arts, not even inventing anything. But because we're so confused, because most of us have simply failed to realize that the only instructions that we're supposed to follow is the Torah, and we've replaced the Torah with comic books that they call textbooks in high school. We've replaced the Torah with newspapers like the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times. We replaced the Torah with television. We replaced the Torah with playing poker. We replaced the Torah with all types of shtuyot. Well, guess what? HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that's the staff that's been leading us since day one, now has to switch to a stick and start hitting us. But because he uses nature, in 1 second, that goy that was your best friend, that was your partner, that was your wife, that was your husband, that was whoever you want him to be, suddenly he looks at you and he says, you know what, Joshua? I can't stand you. What? What do you mean can't stand you? You just told me 2 minutes ago you love me. I'm your best friend. And I was just kidding. Can't wait to kill you. What? What do you mean? I'll kill you. What are you going to do to you? What? No reason. No reason. Go ask any Nazi, why do you hate Jews? He'll start naming a bunch of things to you that don't exist. Oh, they're in charge of the... Okay, why do you hate Jews? Forget about what you think. Give me a reason. How many Jews do you know? How many Jews do you know? Tell me how many. 1, 2, 3, 4. How many? Never met a Jew in his life. I have a student that used to be a Nazi. He's in the process of conversion right now. Used to be a Nazi. Nazi, mamash Nazi. Not like, didn't like Jews. Nazi, whole shaved head, the whole thing, want to kill Jews. Tattoos everywhere. Shows up to the Bet Din, they thought you're going to kill him. Huh? No, what? Tzaddik, what happened? Because I finally met a Jew. Because my whole life, 30 years, 40 years, I hated Jews more than anything in the world. He wrote me a whole letter. I hated Jews. I was trained to hate Jews. But I never met a Jew. But I hated this image that they gave me, and they mamash manipulated his head. One day he met a Jew. Baruch Hashem, it ended up being a good Jew. A Jew that actually has some yirat shamayim. A Jew that teaches Torah. A Jew that has some good things. Shtabach shimo. He wants to be a Jew now. Why? He says, if that's a Jew, I want to be a Jew. Anyone that knows what a Jew really is, including the Jew, wants to be a Jew. Who doesn't want to be a Jew? People who don't know what Jews are, which includes Jews. Why do people not want to be religious? Because they don't know what it means to be religious. They think that being religious is something that's limiting you, constricting you. It's like you're in a cage. It's like you're mourning all the time. You wear black. Who said you have to wear black? Wear burgundy for all we care. But people think, no, it's restricting. What's restricting? What are you talking about? Your life is restricting. All day you play video games. What kind of life is that? You're in video game hell. Your whole mood is determined about whether you beat this cartoon character on television. Your life is hell. What are you talking about constricting? Your whole life you're pretending to be married to some girl for 5-10 years until she leaves you. For who? For your best friend. Because you're married before you're married. You're acting like you're married before you're really married. You have a girlfriend for 5-10 years. Your life is Genom. If you look at the life of a real Jew versus any secular person in the world, name whoever you want. It could be Donald Trump. It could be whatever. Some Jew that's the guy from Vegas that has $100 billion. Whatever it is. Any secular Jew versus the poorest real Jew in the world. You're going to look at the actual facts of their life. You're going to see this billionaire is homeless next to this Jew. Why? Because he has real life. And this guy's got a fake life. Who doesn't want to be a Jew? The one who doesn't know what a Jew is. The problem is that most of us don't want to be Jews. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu uses nature to start hitting us with a stick. And suddenly, there's an halacha. There's a law that HaKadosh Baruch Hu instilled in nature. This halacha says, Esav soneh leYaakov. Esav hates Yaakov. That's an halacha. It's not a parable. It's not an analogy. It's not no. This is a law that a Kadosh Baruch Hu has in nature that he simply turns it on and off at different times. It seems like he's turned it on recently. Because suddenly, that Esav, that was the best friend, that was the boss, that was some politician or somebody that liked Jews, all of a sudden, he hates the Jew. Why? He doesn't even know himself. But suddenly he wakes up in the morning and he has the urge to kill some Jews. Did some Jew hurt you? No. Do you know any Jews? No. Do you work for any Jews? No. So why do you want to go to some house in Monsey, New York, and just kill a bunch of people with a machete? What are you, play a movie? What the hell's wrong with you? Who goes into him with a machete? What's the matter with you? I mean, it'd be psychotic. You'd be possessed, some shit or something. At least be modern. Take a gun or something, like a machete. What's the matter with you? Why do you have a machete anyway? What do you work in a forest? Who has a machete? Where's this coming from? What's the matter with people? You see that this is sickness. Where is this sickness coming from? HaKadosh Baruch Hu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu turned on the button. All of a sudden, Esav goes crazy. Why is Hashem doing this? Hashem is doing this, Rabotai Karim, because we're not doing what we're supposed to. Everybody can say, what do you mean? Last week when we talked about the Kehillah in Beverly Hills that had a guy come into the shul and ruin the whole place, rip some Sifrei Torah, we had an excuse. What was the excuse? The Torah said, that parasha, that is because they are spiritual criminals. Why? They have a Bet Knesset, they call it an Orthodox Bet Knesset in Beverly Hills, while at the same time as they promote and enable the entire Kehillah to drive to Bet Knesset on Shabbat. I mean, the level of stupidity that we have reached in this generation, I don't think has ever been reached in history. You're calling yourself an Orthodox shul while you're promoting. I'm not even saying, unfortunately, almost every shul has people drive to Bet Knesset here in Florida. I don't think I know of one shul that people don't drive to Bet Knesset. But there's a difference between not saying anything. The guy's driving to Bet Knesset, but you're not saying anything, which is not allowed either, by the way. There's a difference between that and providing valet parking. I mean, not just a simple, it's a new level of stupidity. And yet, having the audacity to call yourself Orthodox, having the audacity to say that you have any connection whatsoever to your Persian roots, that were willing to die just for mitzvah of tzitzit. You have the audacity to mention Hashem's name, while you just said to the guy, yeah, park over here. On Shabbat, on Yom Tov, on Yom Kippur. Now this, Rabotai, we talked about it. Say, okay, so if it's gangsters, spiritual gangsters, okay, there's a reason why I'm surprised the place is still there. But what's the excuse for the Bet Knesset in the house of the Hasid in Monsey, New York? I mean, Monsey is a religious people. New York has a lot of religious people. Every day last week there was an attack or more. 1 or 2 attacks every single day last week. People are dying in the streets. How are you going to explain that? Before we open to questions, I'm going to give you an answer to that because I know that everyone is asking that question. If it was attacking a bunch of reform people, conservative people, then we understand Hashem is just getting rid of the trash. The people that have been heretics, the people that are enemies of the Torah, that make fun of the Torah on a regular basis, giving bar mitzvahs to dogs, marrying men and men, Hashem is killing them off. Okay, it's expected. It's expected. It's like a guy that's using heroin every day. He dies of overdose. No one's surprised. No one's surprised that the heroin addict dies from overdose. He's doing heroin every day. What else? What do you expect? It's either jail or death or both. The reform, the conservative, it's not going to be good news at the end. That's what happened in Germany. But how do you explain Poland? How do you explain the religious people in Eretz Yisrael, the religious people in New York, the religious people in different places? How do you explain that? We don't have to explain anything. That's the good news. Everything is in the Torah. Gemara, Masechet Shabbat, says the following. There's a whole section between Daf Nun Dalet 54 and 57, Nun Zayin. Whole section that talks about this topic in many, many different ways. But I'll give you the highlight, if you will, that has to do with what we're talking about. At the time of the Bet Mikdash, HaKadosh Baruch Hu saw that there were a lot of reformers, a lot of people that were going against the Torah. But nonetheless, there were a lot of tzaddikim. A lot of people learning Torah, teaching Torah. The entire Gemara. Who was it written by? Reshaim? No, tzaddikim. It was at that time. The entire Gemara is written by the people, the very same people, that lived at the time of the destruction of Bet Mikdash. Some right after, some right before, but around that time frame. That's what we celebrate in Chanukah. So, when the Bet Mikdash was destroyed, it was a massive Holocaust. There were literally rivers of blood from city to city, making the Holocaust that we know of from 70, 80 years ago seem like a walk in the park in comparison. There were literally rivers of blood that reached the stomach of the horses. That's how much Jewish blood was massacred. Millions and millions of people. There were walls of bodies. Now, not all of them were Reshaim. In fact, many of them were tzaddikim. So the Chachamim asked HaKadosh Baruch Hu, what happened? HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us the dialogue of what happened right before he made the final decision to destroy the Bet Mikdash and also massacre his own children, which he loves dearly. He says, after Am Yisrael desecrated the Torah in many different ways, became like the Goyim, became like a Greek, started playing sports, wanted to become instead of a person that gives SHIUR Torah, wanted to become a newscaster. Instead of a Talmid Chacham, wanted to become an MMA star, wanted to become a football player. People left the Torah, abandoned it, wanted to become Greeks. After these sins accumulated over an extended period of time, the Satan, the Malach HaMavet, the Yetzer Hara, all being the same one, shows up with the bill to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It says, HaShem, you have a signature, it's called Emet. Meaning, everything you do is Emet, everything is honest. There's no pushing you around, there's no manipulating you, there's no bribing you. According to your Torah, you have rules. Your Jewish people have violated your rules time and time again. It's time to pay the bill. Let me do my job, let me kill them. It's my job. Why? I'm your servant. I'm your humble, honest servant. My job is to kill Reshaim. That's what my job is. So let me do my job. I don't want people desecrating your name. I want to honor your name. These Reshaim are violating the Torah, Mechalel Shabbat, driving to shul, eating pork, stealing in business, pretending they're honest, but in reality they're killing people. Well, who are these people? Let me kill them, Hashem. HaKadosh Baruch Hu sends one of his malachim, says, go and put a spiritual letter on the forehead of all of the Shomrei Torah mitzvot. Put a letter, the Taf. symbolizing that they've followed the Torah from Aleph at Taf, from the first letter of the Hebrew alphabet all the way to the last letter. All the people that keep Shabbat, all the people that teach Torah, all the people that tzaddikim, all those people, put a letter on them. Why? Because when the Malach HaMavet shows up, starts killing people, he's going to see that they have a spiritual sign on their forehead. He's not allowed to touch them. The Malach went, put a sign on every one of Am Yisrael that were Shomrei Torah and mitzvot. That protection. Only for a second. Malach HaMavet comes to Hashem and said, Hashem, I'm sorry, but there's a problem here. We said already that you have a signature of Emet. You said that you are Emet. But yet you have put a boundary on my abilities, on my job. What? You have put a sign on these people that keep Shabbat, that learn Torah, that do mitzvot, and I'm not allowed to kill them. But that's not Emet. These people didn't follow the Torah. Hashem says, no, they follow, they keep Shabbat, they cook, they clean for Shabbat, they honor the Shabbat, they learn, they do mitzvot, they have a lulav, they have a etrog. What? What do you want? The Malach HaMavet says to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he says, Hashem, you have a mitzvah in the Torah called Ocheach Tochiach et Amitecha. You have a mitzvah in your Torah called you must rebuke your brothers. Why? You see your brother driving on Shabbat. You see your brother eating not kosher. You see your brother not keeping Torah and mitzvot. You see your brother dating a Goya. You see your sister dating some Arab. You see all these Jews that are off the derech, on the derech, sometimes yes, sometimes no, but you don't say anything. I spoke to a woman from Lakewood yesterday, really religious. Really religious. She said, I saw in one of your videos, you said something crazy. I said, what did I say? Because usually what I say sounds crazy, but it's true. But what did I say? She said, you said that when somebody violates Shabbat, he's considered an idol worshiper. I said, well, that's nothing crazy about it. That's actually true. She goes, what, is that like a Sephardic thing? Tell me. She goes, don't take offense. She goes, is that like a Sephardic thing? Because maybe Sephardics tend to like, scaring you a little more. I said, no, actually, it has nothing to do with Sephardic or not. It's Shulchan Aruch. It's the Rambam. It's the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch. It's Mishnah Berurah. It's the entire Torah says it. The Rambam writes it in Chot Shabbat, chapter 30, Halacha number 15. Someone that drives to shul is considered 100% an idol worshipper. And he writes it in 5 other places. Shulchan Aruch in 7 places. The Zohar all over the place. The Gemara in all over the place. There's an entire section in the Gemara Masechet Sanhedrin Perek Chelek that talks about people that lose their Olam Haba and what happens to them. Hashem Yirachem. There's an entire section in Reshit Chochmah of what happens in Gehenom to those Mechalei Shabbat who don't do Teshuvah. Has nothing to do with Ashkenazi Sfaradi. In fact, if you look at some of the scariest things that we've discussed over the years, much of it, at least as much, if not more, comes from the Chachamim of Ashkenaz and not Sephard. Harav Wasserman Alav Shalom, Ashkenazi, Talmid of the Chafetz Chaim, Ashkenazi himself. When someone came to Harav Wasserman and said, Kvod Harav, you're really saying that all of these secular people, they're all going to go to Gehenom? They're not Tinok Shenishba? Rav Wasserman looks at him. He says, of course they're all going to go to Gehenom. What kind of question is that? Somebody violates Shabbat is not going to go to Gehenom. Somebody eats taref is not going to go to Gehenom. Somebody marries a non-Jew is not going to go to Gehenom. What kind of question is that? Of course they're going to go to Gehenom. Rav Wasserman says, what is it like? It's like someone that's stranded in the middle of a desert with no end in sight. In the desert, doesn't matter whether you're in the middle of it or the end of it, it always looks the same. You go in, you don't have a navigation, you're not coming out. But suddenly this guy that's stranded in the desert sees a huge, massive palace, beautiful, brand new. Walks in, hopefully there's going to be something inside, someone's going to offer him a drink, someone's going to save his life. He sees the place is empty, but it's pristine. It's clean. It's beautiful. It's like it was just built right now. Runs around, sees there's jewels all over the floor. Massive diamonds. Gold everywhere. Goes into the kitchen. All of the food is fresh. Like it just came off of the trees. Like it was just cooked. He starts grabbing jewels, puts it in his pocket. The steak, the burger, everything. He's eating everything inside. And 1 second later, some big Amalek grabs him by the shoulder and puts him under arrest. Because what are you doing here? Who do you think you are, going to the king's palace and taking stuff? He starts screaming, I didn't know. Okay, tell that to the judge. He brings him to the judge, Rav Wasserman says. And the judge says, what do you plea? He says, I plea I don't know. I didn't know that anybody owned this castle, this palace. I just thought it was just there. The judge says, I'm going to punish you double. 1 for the crime of stealing from the king, and 2 for the stupidity of thinking that the palace was built by itself and no one was in charge of it. Rav Wasserman says there's no such thing as a tinok shenishba. Unless he doesn't know he's Jewish, he's not a tinok shenishba. There's no such thing. He knows there's a Bet Knesset, he knows there's Shabbat, he knows there's kosher, he knows he's a Jew, he has to follow. He chooses not to, he's going to go to Gehenom. Whether he's a Sfaradi or he's a Ashkenazi, doesn't make a difference. Many of the things that we hear in our Torah are scary, but it has no custom next to it. It has nothing to do with Ashkenazi Sfaradi. It's just that unfortunately in the English language, the only way that you can learn the things that I'm saying is either from the books yourself, you're going to learn it from the books yourself, or you watch my SHIUR and Rav Mizrahi SHIUR. That's it. Once in a while, some other Chacham says something here and there. Sadly, you're stuck. But at least the truth is available. Now, we are in a generation that people do not know what does Chilul Shabbat mean. People that are religious do not know what Chilul Shabbat means. A woman comes to Rav again and says to him, Kvod Rav, you have to help me. What happened? She says, my son wants to marry Fatima. He wants to marry the Hamas over there. He goes, what, suddenly he wants to marry an Arab? She goes, no, we're a religious house. He goes, yeah, you look really, you look religious. Did you take him to public schools? No, chas v'shalom. I didn't take him to public, I sent him to yeshiva. Okay, so he sent him to yeshiva. How did all of a sudden he goes from yeshiva bachur to wanting to marry Fatima? It doesn't happen overnight. Because no, he started hanging out with a few guys, and they started smoking a little hashish, and before you know it, they started hanging out a little bit more. He didn't really want to take school seriously, and next thing you know it, he stopped keeping Shabbat. He goes, oh, Rabbi Gid stops. He goes, wait a minute, hold on a second. Don't continue. Wait, hold on a second. You tell me that he stopped keeping Shabbat? He goes, yeah. When did he stop keeping Shabbat? Just now? He goes, no, already 3 years ago. He says, he stopped keeping Shabbat 3 years ago, and you didn't faint? You're not in the hospital right now just looking for breath of air because you can't breathe because your son is not keeping Shabbat? It's your fault. It's your fault he's not keeping Shabbat. Why? If he knew how valuable Shabbat is, he would never break it. If you know how valuable Shabbat is, you wouldn't let 3 years pass for your son not to keep Shabbat. You would have lectures inside your house every week until your son keeps Shabbat. You would sponsor every CD that has to do with Shabbat and with Kiruv and with Kedusha. You'd spend every single penny you have begging HaKadosh Baruch Hu to bring your son to do Teshuvah. But you let 3 years pass and he doesn't keep Shabbat. Now you're complaining he wants to marry Mustafa. It's because you have no idea what Shabbat means. I wish this was the only story. Sadly, Rabotai, many people in the frum world do not know what Shabbat is. They keep it, they appreciate it. Some of them even spend extra money on it. But if they see a friend or a family or a neighbor or somebody violating Shabbat, many of us have become numb. Okay, he'll get to it on his own one day. The fact that we see Mechaleh Shabbat driving out to shul and we're not fainting knows we have no idea what Shabbat means. So now back to our Gemara in Masechet Shabbat, page 55. The Malach HaMavet comes to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He says, you're restricting me to deliver and do my job because you're not letting me kill the religious people. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, yeah, but they kept the Torah. Malach HaMavet says, no, there's one mitzvah they didn't keep. They saw a bunch of people driving on Shabbat, they didn't faint. In fact, they didn't say anything. HaKadosh Baruch Hu tries to protect his children. And he says, yes, but Malach HaMavet, this generation was full of Reshaim. Many of them are in Hollywood. Many of them are spiritual gangsters, lefty, liberals, Reshaim. They wouldn't listen to the rabbis anyway. Even if the rabbis came to them and told them, do Teshuvah, you're going to go to Gehenom, do Teshuvah, HaShem is going to do this. These people wouldn't have listened. Malach HaMavet says, no, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You're right. You're right, they wouldn't have listened. But you know that. The rabbis don't know that. The people don't know that. Why? You didn't give them the ability to tell the future. You created a world where we are judged based on effort, not outcome. We are judged based on our best effort. You try your best to make it to Minyan, and you miss it, don't worry about it. You tried your best, but really your best. Hashem knows what your real best is. You tried your best to donate as much as you can, but you simply don't have a job, you don't have any money. Don't worry about it. Why? HaKadosh Baruch Hu knows how much money you have and that you really want. But you say, I tried your best to donate, but in reality, you have $100,000 in the bank, you're not even doing $10. Why? Because you're cheap, not because you're trying your best. HaKadosh Baruch Hu knows that too. We are not judged based on effort, on outcome. We're judged based on effort. And the Malach HaMavet comes to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and says, Hashem, even though this generation was full of lefty liberals, Reshaim, that wouldn't have listened, only you know that. They didn't know. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, checkmate. You won. You're right. You're right. They were obligated to fulfill my Torah. And because of that, go and kill, massacre the religious people first. Why? Had they rebuked and fulfilled the Torah like they're supposed to, it would have been given a chance to some of these secular people that are not haters of the Torah, that are not anti-Torah, but just ignorant. It would have given a few people a chance. But best of all, had there been a single person in the world that's giving people the truth, I would have let the world continue without destroying the Bet Mikdash. And that's why, Rabotai, every Monday and Thursday, we read a Bereta. As part of our prayer, Abaye says, Anshe Emunah Avadu. Abaye says, there are no more people of Emunah. And the Gemara Masechet Chagiga, page 15, says, what does it mean, no more men of Emunah? No more people that exist that tell the truth to people and tell them if you don't listen to Hashem, you're going to get punished. No one's rebuking anymore. So the Gemara says, what does this all mean? He says, that was the last thing that pushed Hashem over to allow the Malach HaMavet to kill his children. Since there was no more people to rebuke the people, he says, the only way they can do Teshuvah is either someone tells them or I tell them. Since there's no one to tell them anymore, no one to rebuke them anymore, no one to tell people to stop violating Shabbat, no one to tell people to stop, finagling all types of things against the government, against the business, against your clients, against everyone else, just to fill your pockets up and do all types of things that are not good. No one to tell them the truth because everyone is, too careful and politically correct. Then I have to tell them. But when HaKadosh Baruch Hu speaks, unfortunately, Rabotai, it's not through lectures. And that's why, Rabotai, the Malach HaMavet started killing the religious people first. Many of them, millions of them. And it started, and it almost didn't stop. And the Gemara continues with this dialogue between HaKadosh Baruch Hu and the Malach HaMavet. And it says that there is a verse in the Torah that gives all types of indications of what happened at that time. It says that there was these people were considered Mekachi, these people were considered my sanctuary, these religious people. So the Gemara says, Al tikri Mekachi ela mekuchai. Don't read it as Mekachi, as these people were my sanctuary, these people were my reason why I let the world exist. Rather, these are my sanctified one. All of them, all of these religions became a korban. Why? They missed one mitzvah. And remember that these people, Elu bnei Adam shekimu et Torah kula mi alef ad taf. These are the people that fulfilled and observed the entire Torah mi alef ad taf. They followed everything. They just messed up on one mitzvah. But that mitzvah almost killed everyone. Why? If there's no one to tell people the truth, the unpleasant truth, there's no teshuvah. No one's going to know it. We're only a few generations away from simply destroying ourselves. And that taf that was on their forehead became now a symbol, Amaresh Lakish. This taf now became the signature of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Amar Rabbi Chanina, Chotamo shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu emet. This taf now became a new symbol. Instead of that they followed the Torah from Aleph at Taf, this was the signature that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is emet, meaning even if it means hurting his kids that he loves dearly, he's never going to change the truth. And also, as my own side chidush, the Taf is also the first letter of Tochiach, which means rebuke. So, for people that are asking, why is it that both religious and non-religious people are getting hurt right now? The answer is simple. None of us are religious enough. None of us are religious enough. None of us are keeping enough. Why? Because the vast majority, almost 80% of Am Yisrael, don't even keep Shabbat. Almost 100% do not even know that wasting seed is a sin that loses a person's olam haba. We started a campaign to raise some money for a new CD, the only CD in history, in English, about wasting seed. We started a campaign. During that same time, a few other campaigns were started. Not that it's competition or anything. Anyone that gets a successful campaign, mabruk, enjoy, no problem. I don't ever get jealous of anyone, Baruch HaShem, but just to show you where we are as far as our religiosity. During the same day, one guy from Florida that I know, he has like a camp. He has like a camp. He has a bunch of parties every week. He invites people for Shabbat and to eat outside and eat challah. And they have songs and there's mixed dancing also. But in the name of Shabbat. In the name of Shabbat. So he raised money in 24 hours. He raised $67,000. And it's getting doubled because he has one of these sponsors that doubles his money. Another guy got sick. He got sick. He says, I need $500,000. I need $500,000 because I'm sick. Within 24 hours, he got 300,000. I'm sure he's going to get the rest. Be'ezrat Hashem. Hopefully he does. Several other campaigns started. One organization 3 weeks ago. This organization is only about 1.5 years old. Other than making a bunch of lectures that simply cool people off to not do mitzvot, I have no idea what else they do. But they had a campaign. We want to raise $1 million in 24 hours. They passed it. They got 1.2 million, 24 hours. So now, there's a mitzvah in the Torah called Pgam Abrit. If a person wastes seed, he loses olam haba if he doesn't do teshuvah. The Shulchan Aruch, the body of laws that all Jews comply with, whether you're Sfaradi, Ashkenazi, Litai, Yemenite, whatever you are, everybody complies with the Shulchan Aruch. Now some people are going to say, wait, the Yemenites don't. They go by the Rambam. Yeah, but the ones that live in Eretz Israel, they've adapted to the Shulchan Aruch. Point being is, all of Jews comply with the Shulchan Aruch. And this Shulchan Aruch says, someone that weighs seed, it's the biggest sin in the Torah. Lose olam haba, Hashem Yerachem. And there's a whole limud that we did on it. Now, unfortunately, in the English language, there's simply no information that you can learn in the English language, aside from our lectures that we've made over the last 5 years, totaling maybe 30, 40 hours. So we decided that we're going to do something for Klal Yisrael. We're going to publish as many CDs as we could possibly afford. We're hoping for 1.5 million. So at least, if there's a 10% of Am Yisrael is 1.5 million, every one of them is going to have a copy of the CD. Now, to print 1.5 million CDs, you need $1.5 million. Maybe a little less because you have a massive amount and so on. So I'll just let you guys know. We started a campaign. To build this campaign, with all the buttons and the features and so on, took about 13 hours. 13 hours. Now, on Wall Street, 13 hours meant somewhere in the neighborhood about $60,000, $70,000 for me. So now, 13 hours of work. We launched the campaign on Thursday. On Thursday, we got $420. So far from Thursday to today, we've almost reached 2,000. Almost. We're almost at $2,000. So we're a little bit short of $1.5 million. A little bit, guys. Just a little bit short. We're only 1.496 million or 498 million short. Just a little bit. But continue donating to Sufganiyot. Continue donating to Chalot. Continue donating to build more buildings that have no minyan. Continue donating for sick people that are sick physically, but not the ones, the 15 million that are sick spiritually. If you die physically sick but righteous, you go to Olam Haba. If you die spiritually sick, guess what? You're not going to Olam Haba. It's good. But no one seems to care. So all I have in my hand is a sample. Why? That's the most we could possibly get with $2,000. We get a sample. Why? Because people don't care. Anshe Emunah avadu. Anshe Emunah avadu. I don't talk to you guys about money and I care less about it. This is not for me. I don't make $1 out of this. This is for Klal Yisrael. But unfortunately, Rabotai, people are in such a confused state that they have no idea what they're doing, what's right, what's left. And unfortunately, we're putting in a Kadosh Baruch Hu in a position where he is forcing us to wake up by sending us Esav to start killing us in the middle of the street. Now, this problem of wasting seed is an epidemic across the world. The Jews, the non-Jews, the religious, the irreligious, the anti-religious, the ones that are sometimes religious and sometimes not, the young, the old, the married, the single, the male, the female. This is an epidemic across the entire world. And it's also something that HaKadosh Baruch Hu hates more than anything else. Elokeim soneh zima. Their God hates immodesty, immorality. What's the solution? Learning. That's the solution. Now, even though people are going to say, wait, but people are not using USB, they're not using CDs anymore, they're using USB, they're using the internet. What do you think? I was born yesterday? I know. I also don't use CDs. But guess what? This is the best flyer in the world. It's the best flyer. Now, USB cost about 10 times more. So for the price of one USB, I simply get 10 of these or 15 of these. So that means, Rabotai, that even though the guy may pick this up and look, oh, there's a movie. Oh, okay, I'll watch the movie. But then he doesn't realize the other side has Pagam Abrid also. There's 2 CDs. Now, he picked it up for the movie, or he picked it up for wasting. I don't really care why he picked it up. He picked it up. Even if he doesn't have a CD player in his house, but he's going to see a name, he's going to go on a computer, type it up, and watch everything for free anyway. It's not being sold in stores. This is a good flyer. That's all it is. If you have a CD player, Mabruk, enjoy it. Now, the reality is, Rabotai, is that these different tools are tools to help Klal Yisrael do Teshuvah. Now, as long as Am Yisrael does not care, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will send them a different way. They'll have to spend the money in different ways. They have to spend the money in different ways. That's simply what it is. And that's why I say to you, you as Jews, Whether you have money or you don't have money, it doesn't really make a difference. Everybody here knows somebody that has money. You have to decide, do you care or not? Because right now the situation is getting worse and worse. And it doesn't look like anything is going to change anytime soon. I have a few friends that are into politics and they're connected to the White House and different things, and they're trying to get Donald Trump to do some things to help the Jewish people. I told them, Be'ezrat Hashem, your ishtadlut is going to have some merit, and maybe it'll work for a period of time. But the reality is, we all know, the only thing that's going to help us, Rabotai, avoid another Holocaust is Teshuvah. That's the only way. If Klal Yisrael starts doing serious Teshuvah, Esav will stop hating us suddenly. If we do not, the situation is going to get much worse. Now, the question is, do we do Aliyah? Aliyah is not going to help you. That's the answer. Aliyah, going to Eretz Yisrael, moving to Eretz Yisrael is not going to help anybody. Why? Because if HaKadosh Baruch Hu is passing a decree on his people, it doesn't matter where you are. Gog Magog is going to be a worldwide event. World War III is going to be a worldwide thing. The only thing that's going to protect each person is how close they are to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. If you're glued to Hashem, you have nothing to worry about as far as yourself. All you have to worry about is the people around you. Did you at least try to help them? You tried to help them, you sponsored Kiruv. Instead of buying houses and cars and watches, you invested your money in helping Klal Yisrael, you have nothing to worry about. But if you have a bunch of houses, but no Baalei Teshuvah in your account, you have everything to worry about. Why? Because we saw it in the Gemara. One of the mitzvot is that you have to help people do Teshuvah. You have to. It's not a chassidut. It's an obligation on every Jew to help other Jews do Teshuvah. Whether you succeed or not is irrelevant. But you have to try. You have to share lectures. You have to invite people to lectures. You have to do something, for heaven's sake. Do something. Stop being so selfish. This, Rabotai, is critical. Why? Because living in Eretz Yisrael is not going to solve anybody's problems. People are moving over there thinking that's going to solve the problem, or they're buying guns. Like when Amalek shows up with a tank, they think that their little BB gun's going to help them. Guess what? When Amalek shows up, usually the gun is in a safe. By the time you get to the safe, you're already missing a head. It's not going to help anybody. You want to go buy guns? It's allowed. No problem. Go buy guns. Go buy Uzis. Buy a machete too. Maybe you can fight with them. I don't know. Do whatever you want. But if you think that's going to help you, we need to call spiritual 911 for you. If you think that a gun's going to help you at the time of Amalek, at the time of Gog Magog, you're a lost cause. You want to go buy it? No problem. It's ishtadlut of, some gangster comes, he's trying to kill a bunch of people. You want to be the gunslinger that shoots him? Go ahead, do it. Shoot him for me. No problem. Take the mitzvah. Allowed. But that's not going to help you. What's going to help you is if you save Jews from Gehenom. That's what's going to help you. Instead of spending $500 or $5,000 on guns, spend that money on some CDs that are going to help both religious and non-religious people do Teshuvah. Go help people do Teshuvah. Why? Because that's something that will go into your account. Guess what? Most people that buy a gun, an overwhelming majority of them, 99.9% of them, never actually use it. You know why? Because they never meet Amalek. They never meet any gangsters. People that buy guns legally, they're not gangsters. They're people that want to protect themselves. And 99% of them never actually end up using these guns. Why? Because they never end up meeting this criminal. So the best that they get out of this gun, they go to the gun range and feel like a hero. Oh yeah, I'm a good shot. Yeah, I got the bullseye 18 times in a row. Wow. In Gan Eden, they're going to designate a place for you just to shoot your gun there too. They never use the gun. Why? It doesn't help you go to Gan Eden. It doesn't help you do anything. So you go spend $5,000 on guns, and they're going to show you in Shema. He's like, yeah, wow, you have a nice gun collection. Psh. You have it with you? No, it's too heavy. It's too heavy for the angels to bring here. Oh, okay. You have any Baalei Teshuvah in your account? You have any people that you actually help do Teshuvah? No, I had to bring those. Those you could have brought. Those Baalei Teshuvah, those people that did Teshuvah because of you, that kid that was frum but was really off the derech, that you helped him stop wasting seed and now he's a tzaddik, you could have brought his neshama, could have been a lawyer for you. That girl that was about to marry Mustafa, and then you got her, to do Teshuvah, she could have been a lawyer for you. All of those people you helped them do Teshuvah, some came from a religious house, some came from a non-religious house. All those people, they could have been your lawyers to get you into Gan Eden. Now all you have is a gun. Guns don't let people into heaven. They don't work up there. So, with that being said, Rabotai, again, we have, Halacha is you're allowed to protect yourself, you're allowed to buy guns, buy Uzis, buy whatever you want. But if you actually believe that that's what's going to help you in this world or the next, like I said before, you need spiritual 911. So I'm sure some people have some questions. People here, if you have some questions, ask. If not, we'll go to the internet. I'm sure people on the internet have some questions. Anyone have anything meaningful? About the topic, not about like where was the world before it started. Okay. Why do so many people say, once a Jew, always a Jew? When people go far from HaShem and even actively work against the Torah, how can they be considered a Jew? If there are no repercussions for your actions, and you are still part of a group, and it cheapens the value of that identity and accelerates the spirit off the cliff. You should write an article instead of a question. This is a fantastic question. Why do people say, once a Jew, always a Jew? That's really the question. People say, once a Jew, always a Jew, is because they are misinterpreting a halacha into something that has become a symbol of our ignorism or ignorance. Meaning that halacha says if a person is, either converts to Judaism, to a authentic Orthodox Bet Din, or they're born of a Jewish mother, they are considered Jewish. But their Judaism is either on suspension or not on suspension, is active. That's the part they don't tell you. What does that mean? If a Jew is a shomer Torah and mitzvot, he keeps Torah and mitzvot, he's considered part of the Jewish people. Amitecha it's called, your nation. If he does not, or she does not keep Torah and mitzvot, it all depends on what violation she makes. If, let's say, for example, she's immodest, then she's considered a reshait. She's considered wicked, but still a Jew. If she eats non-kosher, she's still considered a Jew, meaning she's still considered part of your nation, she's still considered part of Klal Yisrael, but she's considered wicked, she's making sins. But there are sins that the Torah says that if you make those sins, that Judaism that you were either born into or converted into, that Judaism is on suspension. Meaning you are no longer considered part of Amitecha, it's no longer considered part of the nation. You're judged as a Jew, but you're not considered as a Jew. And one of those sins is someone that worships an idol. Needless to say, someone that drives on Shabbat, someone that violates Shabbat on purpose. There are other sins as well, but the point is that there are certain sins, like these two that I just mentioned, that if a person makes them, their Judaism is on suspension. Now that does not mean that they're considered a goy like a goy is, meaning they're not considered a Gentile like a Gentile is, where a Gentile doesn't have to keep Shabbat. So that's mean it's not for them to drive on Shabbat, it's not a sin. No, for a Jew, he's always considered a Jew in a sense that he's always going to be judged as a Jew. He's going to get punished or rewarded as a Jew. But when it comes to including him or her in the nation, we do not include them in certain things. For example, if you're counting a minyan, you need 10 people to say Kaddish. If one or two of those people out of the 10 do not keep Shabbat, you cannot count that as a minyan. You now have 8. A mechalel Shabbat or an idol worshipper cannot be counted as part of a minyan, according to everyone, not according to Yaron Reuven or Sfaradim, Ashkenazim. It has nothing to do with that. It's Aliyah. This is Rambam. This is Shulchan Aruch. Someone that does not keep Shabbat is considered 100% an idol worshipper. Now, If, let's say, for example, you want to get married, you need to have 2 witnesses sign your ketubah to be there at the ceremony. If one of those witnesses is a mechalel Shabbat or is a Christian missionary that was born a Jew, you cannot use them as a witness. If you use them as a witness, that ketubah, that ceremony is not valid. If you are invited, someone that you care about, to your Shabbat table, and that person took the wine, you wanted to be nice to you, took the wine, that's a very expensive bottle of wine, and poured you a glass. If that wine is uncooked, expensive wine, you are not allowed to drink that wine. In fact, you have to throw the whole bottle out. The point being, Rabotai, is when someone is excluded from the nation, it doesn't look good. But worst of it all, there is a certain mitzvah that everyone knows about. It's called Lashon Hara. Now, HaShem gave us a big present with this rule. With this rule of someone that's excluded from the nation. Why? Because, Rabotai, if a person says Lashon Hara on a kosher person, they can lose their Olam Haba. One of the examples is Doeg. Doeg HaAdomi was a big Talmid Chacham. Huge Talmid Chacham, head of the Sanhedrin. Gemara Masechet Sanhedrin says he has no share of the world to come. He is in Gehenom permanently. Why? He said Lashon Hara about David HaMelech. So Lashon Hara is a big deal. Someone saying Lashon Hara is a big deal. But the Chafetz Chaim says, all of the rules that have to do with Lashon Hara are only about people that are considered part of Amitecha. Meaning, if you say Lashon Hara against a righteous Jew that's Shomer Torah and mitzvot, that keeps Torah and mitzvot, you have to do serious Teshuvah on that. Why? Because you can lose your Olam Haba if you don't do Teshuvah on that. But if that person is a Mechalel Shabbat, it's not even considered Lashon Hara. Why? He's not part of your nation. Say whatever you want about him. You shouldn't, because it's not a good thing to do and get yourself used to, saying Lashon Hara about people. But the point is, this is actually a get-out-of-jail-free card for a lot of the nonsense that people talk about. Why? Because most people in Klal Yisrael are not keeping Torah and mitzvot. And we say Lashon Hara about them. Now, if we say Lashon Hara about the kosher people, that's a very serious problem, very serious offense. But if you say Lashon Hara about somebody that's a Mechalel Shabbat, it's not even an offense. It's not even a sin. Such is the decree on someone that's a Mechalel Shabbat. So now, when people say a Jew is always a Jew, they're right to an extent. Where he's a Jew, he'll always be judged as a Jew. She's a Jew, she'll always be judged as a Jew, even if she converts to Christianity. But what they're not telling you, either because they don't know or they don't feel the courage to do, the courage to say it, is that they don't tell you that Judaism can be put on suspension. Now, the problem that people have is that they have a difficulty understanding the 13 principles of faith that discuss reward and punishment. And I wrote something up to a friend of mine, a big Talmid Chacham. I wrote him an answer today about the issue. And the problem is that most people do not understand what eternal punishment is. They think that it's not possible for Hashem to punish anyone eternally. Interestingly enough, no one has a problem with Hashem rewarding us eternally, though. No one questions that. No one says, how is it possible that Hashem's going to reward you eternally? No one questions that. Everyone says, no, it's definitely possible. Hashem rewards us eternally, that's forever, for sure. But punishment eternally, we have a problem understanding that. The truth is that human logic is incapable of understanding eternity. We do not understand eternal reward or eternal punishment. We're not capable of understanding anything that's beyond, just a few steps beyond us. Eternity is far, far beyond us. But that's where we go to our Chachamim. That's where we go to our Torah. Torah says there is eternal reward and there is eternal punishment. Meaning, if you do good, you can get eternal reward. If you do bad, guess what? You're getting eternal punishment. For certain sins, not all sins. Some sins, it's not eternal punishment. Some sins, it's just temporary punishment. But needless to say, if a person does not keep Shabbat, a person does not do Teshuvah for wasting seed, they're getting eternal punishment. There's no questions, no second opinion. So that's why it's important for people to know, yes, Judaism is the chosen people, everything, it's all good. But that's assuming you're righteous. Assuming you're righteous. Next question. What is the purpose of Hashem keeping patient and not extracting us? Extracting us out of the exile once and for all. Our situation is only becoming worse. What is the purpose of it all? Now, we're not going to pretend to know the accounting of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but I can tell you this. HaKadosh Baruch Hu told us that everything that happened in Mitzrayim, all of the glory, all of the glamour, all of the miracles, all of the beautiful things, will be magnified. It will be much bigger at the time of Mashiach. There was 3 days of darkness in Egypt, the plague of darkness. Right before that plague of darkness, HaKadosh Baruch Hu made everybody make a choice. Are you with me or against me? He made all of Am Yisrael decide on the spot before the 8th plague, before the 9th plague, before the plague of darkness. Are you with me or against me? Now everyone can say, no, yeah, I'm with you. No. Hashem, he wants blood. He wants blood. What's the blood? Everyone that's with me has to do Brit Milah. Everyone that's with me has to do Brit Milah. Because in Egypt, we weren't allowed to do Brit Milah. For 200 years, no Brit Milah. So all of Am Yisrael, all of Bnei Yisrael had the Orla on him. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, if you're with me, you do Brit Milah. And we go to the desert. If you're not with me, you don't do Brit Milah. You can stay here. 80% of Bnei Yisrael did not do Brit Milah. They wanted to stay in Egypt. They didn't want to go to the desert. They didn't want to do Brit Milah. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu killed them in the plague of darkness. The plague of darkness was only 3 days. And because they didn't do Brit Milah, Hashem killed all of them. All of those people that didn't do it. Only 20% of Am Yisrael left Egypt. Some say even less. Less than 20% survived. Because they didn't keep their Brit. Now, the Pikei de Rabbi Eliezer ben Horkinos, says that the ones that did Brit Milah only did a partial Brit Milah. Same thing continued for the desert. For all 40 years that we were in the desert, we only did the first step of the Brit Milah. The full step we had to do once we crossed the Jordan and we went to Eretz Yisrael, went with Yeshua ben Nun. That's why Hashem says, with your blood you will live, with your blood you will live. We say it twice. Betamai chayi, betamai chayi. We say it during the holidays, the Yamim Noraim and so on. Why? It says there's 2 Brit Milah that Am Yisrael did. One in the desert and one when they crossed the river and they went into Eretz Yisrael, they completed the Brit Milah. Meaning that the Brit of a Jew, that's a big deal for Hashem, whether you like it or not. The ones that didn't want to do Brit Milah, didn't want to keep their Brit, the HaKadosh Baruch Hu killed all of them. Now, this was just in Mitzrayim. The Zohar Kadosh says, at the time of Mashiach, there will be 15 days of darkness, not 3 days. Meaning, whatever we saw in Egypt, it's going to be much worse. Why? Because the HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to deal with the entire world, not just with Am Yisrael. You have almost 8 billion people in the world. 8 billion people in the world, Rabotai, 15 days of darkness, it's not going to be a good look. And that's just the beginning. So, because of that, because the next judgment that comes to the world is the final judgment, HaKadosh Baruch Hu in His mercy wants to give all of the people that have a little bit of emet in them, a little spark still left, the opportunity to do Teshuvah. Why? Because this is the last chance. He doesn't want your cousin, your aunt, your uncle, your father, your mother, your best friend, your childhood buddy, your whatever, your employee. He doesn't want those people to die. He doesn't want you to be the only one that celebrates when Mashiach comes. He wants you to celebrate completely. Why? Because everybody that you know survived. Now what kind of salvation is going to be if everybody you know died? So Hashem wants everyone to be given a chance. Why? So that way, once the Mashiach comes and Hashem brings judgment to the world and bring His signature of emet to the world, no one's going to have any questions. Why didn't Steve survive? And why didn't this guy survive? Why didn't she survive? Why? Because you already know by then they had their chance. They chose Genom. They chose it. They chose to be a Greek. They chose to be an enemy of Hashem. They chose it. I have nothing against you, Hashem. I cannot complain. I can't even cry about it. Why? You gave them one chance after another. You gave them a lecture locally. You gave them the CD. You gave them this. You gave them BezratHashem.org. You gave them, Naomi and Yael and Michal and all these tzadikot that are delivering Torah to the whole world with free donuts, with cookies, with, potato chips, with cheese, everything you gave them, Hashem. You sent them special delivery right to their house for free. Kiruv packages for free. No one wants to pay for anything anymore. Everything for free. And they still didn't want to do it. I have nothing against you, Hashem. I have no complaints whatsoever. Hashem, you're emet. You're emet. In fact, if you didn't kill them, I would be upset. Why? Because I worked so hard to do Teshuvah. Why are they going to go to Gan Eden and without doing Teshuvah? It's not fair. So, HaKadosh Baruch Hu in His mercy wants to give everyone a chance. But the clock is ticking. It may be a week, maybe a month, it may be a year, it may be 10 years. I have no idea. All I know is that right now we're seeing the stick. The more the stick is around, the more painful it becomes. And that's why, Rabotai, I'll finish this particular question with this, and then we'll go to the next question. After the Holocaust was over, the war was over, they were still in the camps over there. They came to the Klosenberger Rebbe and told him, Kvod Harav, Mashiach is going to come. Holocaust just happened. Everyone thought Mashiach was coming. When they saw the Americans and the British there, they were disappointed. They were for sure that Mashiach was the one that was going to take them out of the Holocaust. 6 million Jews died. Tens of millions of others died. Everyone was sure that Mashiach is coming for sure. When they came to the Klosenberger Rebbe in the camps, they said, Kvod Harav, it's over. Mashiach's going to come. The Klosenberger Rebbe said to them, we have no such knowledge of what goes on in heaven about when Mashiach is going to come. And in fact, when they asked my father, he says, his father was a big tzaddik. When they asked my father about the timing of Mashiach, my father says, I would pay suitcases of gold just to get a little peek of the decision-making of heaven. But what I know is that we have a lot more suffering before Mashiach comes. We don't talk about timing of Mashiach. That's why it's very odd that part of Chassidut today likes to talk about Mashiach now, Mashiach tomorrow, Mashiach this. This is not really a common thing. Because for all of history, Jews have been scared to death of Mashiach coming because they knew that there's a big pogrom, big Holocaust that's likely to happen right before. No one was excited about Mashiach until the last 20 years. And that's only because people are ignorant of what it actually means. So with that being said, Hashem has patience for us, but at the same token, He also has a clock, His own clock. He decides when, how, and who. We simply have to worry about doing Teshuvah and doing Teshuvah immediately. Next question. You have more? Okay. Is this from the internet or is this from people here? Internet, Baruch Hashem. Okay. Practically, it's impossible to get all Jews to keep mitzvot. So how can we tie Esav sand and curb anti-Semitism? So the Gemara Masechet Sanhedrin, also the Zohar Kadosh, have Talmidim go to Rabbi Eliezer ben Horkinos. It says, Kvod Harav, what's it going to take to bring Mashiach? What's it going to take to destroy Esav, destroy Amalek? And Rabbi Eliezer ben Horkinos, the rabbi of Rabbi Akiva, says something shocking. He says, the Mashiach is not going to come until there's a generation of righteous or a generation of wicked. And he said, Kvod Harav, of course we all know that when there was a conversation between Malach Gavriel and Hashem about Mashiach coming only for righteous and only for wicked, Malach Gavriel told Hashem it's never going to be a generation fully righteous. So Hashem says, okay, it's never going to be. Because it's never going to be also a generation fully wicked. It's always going to be a little both. So you're never going to bring Mashiach. Hashem said, okay, so not the entire people righteous. Maybe just a city. A city. Malach Gabriel says, Galui ve'yadua, lifnei kisei kvodecha, you know, and it's known to you in front of your throne of glory. There's never going to be a city full of just righteous people. There's always going to be one Rasha, little Haman, that looks like a rabbi. There's always going to be somebody like that. So Hashem says, okay, so maybe it's going to be a neighborhood. Neighborhood, not a city, a neighborhood. Malach Gabriel, the Malach for Am Yisrael, comes to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we all know there's always going to be one Rasha somewhere. Hashem says, fine, 1 minyan, 10 people in one shul, not in the world, 10 people in one shul anywhere in the world, but it has to be 10 people in the same room that are all serious Baalei Teshuvah, and they agree on everything. There's no machloket between them. There's no sinat chinam between them. He's Ashkenazi, he's Faradi, he's Litai, he's this. None of that garbage. There's no, I want to be Chazan. No, I want to be Chazan. None of that garbage. 10 people, they're on the same page. Righteous. I'll bring Mashiach. So that means, Rabotai, we don't have to make all of Klal Yisrael do Teshuvah. We simply need to help as many people as possible. Everybody has at least a few people in their circle. You have 2 people. He has 10. Some people are very, very popular and very, talkative. They have 500 friends. You ask him, you have a lot of friends? He goes, oh, I know everybody. Okay, you know everybody? Okay, so at least make it useful. Make it useful. You have 500 people on your phone. Be useful with those 500 people. Help them. Save 10% of them. Point is, if every single person just works on their circle, and one step removed from their circle, where you go into your community, even if you don't know people, each person here, each person on the internet that's watching can make at least 10 people do Teshuvah this year. You should make a new Baal Teshuvah every month. If you really work on it, at least one Baal Teshuvah every month. I tell you the truth, this is really, really difficult. To do this is very difficult. If it wasn't for the new Baalei Teshuvah, emails and letters and text messages that Baruch Hashem we get every day, I would have quit a long time ago. Why? It's really difficult. But because you see, Bamash, Ishtabach Shimolad, every single day there's a new letter, a new text, a new email, some type of communication, changed my life. I'm about Teshuvah. I'm already watching for 2 years. I'm already keeping Shabbat for 6 months. I left the non-Jew. I left the business. I did this. All types of people all over the world doing Teshuvah. Yishtabach Shimo. You're seeing results. What am I doing? Simply telling you what's in the Torah. You don't even have to do that. All you got to do is take the lecture and send it to somebody. All you got to do is take some money out of your pocket, sponsor some CDs. All you got to do is simply try. That's it. Try, take this lecture, the one right now, press share. As many contacts as you have, share. You could do for free, you could do for money, you could do for both. Point being, Rabotai, is that every single person, if they care, they can help a lot of people. And you could literally make a new Baal Teshuvah every month. But that's, again, means that you're doing it the right way. You're doing it to help them, not to win. Many people are trying to do kiruv to win. They just like yelling at people and telling them what to do. That kiruv is never going to work. That's a chilul Hashem. Why? Because you're making Judaism look like ISIS. It's not about winning. It's about helping people. Helping people discover the truth. They don't agree with you? No problem. Send them new information that's going to help them understand. Never get angry. Never get frustrated. People tell me all the time, oh, she didn't listen to me. I can't take it. Can't take it. Why are you so angry? If you really cared about her, if she was having a heart attack and you told her, listen, I want to help you. She says, no, I don't want you to help me. You get upset at her? No, you feel bad for her. Why is this any different? She's sick. She doesn't want to take the medicine. Why are you so upset? You should feel bad for her. She doesn't want to take the medicine. Even worse than what you felt bad for her before. But if you're trying to win, that means it has nothing to do with her. It has to do with your ego. You just want to tell people what to do. Don't do anyone any favors. So, as far as helping people keep Torah and mitzvot, you don't have to help everyone. You have to help the people around you. And the people that are not around you. You have some money, donate. Stop donating to build more Starbucks. Stop donating for more challah. Stop it already. There's plenty of institutions that are going to fund sick people. We need to help the spiritually sick. If you can do this, mabruk, you do it. I'll give you money. If you can help people do tshuva, I'll give you money. It's not about me money. It's about simply, this works. If you have a better system, I'll donate to you. Unfortunately, it doesn't exist. Next question. Is Nefesh B'Nefesh funded by Christians? I want to make an Aliyah. Can I use them? I can't afford to go on my own. Is Nefesh B'Nefesh funded by Christians? That I don't know. I do know that they do associate with some Christian organizations. I don't know if they get necessarily their main funding for it. Can you use them? Yes. To my knowledge, they're not a missionary organization. Again, I may be wrong about this, but to my knowledge, they're not a missionary organization. They're not like the Goldberg and Company in Boca Raton, and they're not like some of the other Reshaim out there. They simply, I know that they help people do Teshuvah. I know that they help people do Aliyah. It gets a little tricky if you're religious because the selection of places of where you can live is more limited than if you're not religious, obviously, and you're never allowed to live in a non-religious neighborhood because it's simply going to make your life a living hell. And it's going to be very, very hard to stay religious if you're surrounded by a bunch of people that are not religious, especially in Israel. But as far as can you use them, yes, you can. To my knowledge, again, if somebody has proof otherwise, then no. I know that one person, one of our students that did Aliyah a few years ago, she was using several organizations to help her pay for her Aliyah. And one of the organizations she sent me, I looked up, I don't remember the name, but it was 100% funded by Christians. Like it was a Christian organization. And I told her, you're not allowed whatsoever. You're not allowed because these people simply, you give them your name and phone number, you're pretty much going to be target number one for every missionary that lives in Eretz Yisrael and doesn't. And it's going to hurt. So you're not allowed to take their money. Their money comes from Avodah Zarah. Long story short, don't use them. That meant that she had to pay several $1,000s out of her own pocket for something. And to my knowledge, she passed the test and she didn't use them. Next, what does Torah regarding a woman who is a widow, divorce, when making a vow? I'm not understanding the third question. What does the Torah say regarding a woman who is a widow or divorced when making a vow? You don't know what the question is either? What does the Torah say regarding a woman who is divorced or making a vow? Oh, okay. So if a woman is married and she makes a vow, she makes a neder, her husband can cancel it. Her husband can cancel it if it's made during the same day. This is not really common to make neders. Generally speaking, you shouldn't make neders in general. But if you do, if a woman makes a neder, her husband can cancel it that same day. But if not, she has to go to Talmid Chacham, and they could cancel the neder if it's cancelable. Not every neder is cancelable. Now, what does a woman do if she's a widow or she's divorced about canceling her neder since our husband is not alive or she's never been married or she's divorced? She simply goes to the second step, which is to go to the Talmid Chacham and get them to cancel the neder if the vow is cancelable. It's cancelable. Let's try to keep the questions on topic of Aliyah, terrorism, the situation, not necessarily the neders, because it's not really relevant. I don't want to get off topic. Any more questions? Any more questions from the internet? Joshua? Questions on the internet? Oh, they were monitoring it? Okay, so you quit? All right. I thought maybe you have a different system. Oh, somebody sent me a question. Let's see. I've been watching you online. I have a question. Is it wrong to take advantage of purchasing cheap real estate and fixing it up, properties, then renting out to the people? Okay, this has nothing to do with the topic, but since you guys have no other questions, is it wrong to take it? I don't know why it's considered taking advantage. It's considered business. You buy something for cheap in order to sell it for more expensive. There's nothing wrong with it. There's something wrong with if you are selling something for an expensive price when it's not worth that much. Meaning, you're selling them, let's say, a piece of cup, You tell them that this water is going to cure cancer. In reality, that you got this water from the faucet. That's cheating. That's not allowed. That's not business. That's cheating. That you're going to lose olam haba for. But if a person is doing business, he buys something for cheap, and he sells it for, and he improves it, and he sells it for more expensive, and it's worth that much money. It's no problem. That's business. You're allowed to buy property, fix it. It improves the value. Sell it for a higher price. That's simply business. There's nothing wrong with it. There's something wrong with people that lend money and charge interest to other Jews. That's wrong. Or people that charge non-Jews exorbitant amount of interest, like this cash advance business that we've talked about in the past. You're not allowed to charge these exorbitant interest rates to Jews or non-Jews. That's not business. That's criminalism. That's simply being a criminal. But as far as buying something for cheap and selling it for more expensive, that's perfectly allowed. That's business 101. That's simply how everybody has to make a living. If that wasn't available, if you're not allowed to make a profit on people, then nobody will be able to live. There will be no monetary system. Okay, let's see if anybody else sent me messages. Not selling, renting out. Same thing. Selling, renting out makes no difference. You're buying a property. Your property that you're buying is you're going to try to make money out of it. Whether you're trying to make money out of it by selling it or by renting it out, whether you're renting it out in a zoo or you're renting it out in Harlem or you're renting it out in Beverly Hills is irrelevant. As long as you're being ethical, as long as you're being honest, as long as you are bringing them something that they're paying for. Like, for example, I had a landlord one time when we moved to Florida, or actually we moved to Hollywood, where this landlord told me that the house that he's giving me is pristine, good shape, fantastic. I don't have time to go look at houses. So I didn't go look at the house. I simply took his word for it. He sent me some pictures, what the house looks like. I needed to move, so we moved. We took the house. We show up to the house, and there's holes everywhere. There's doors falling off. There's a rust, all types of problems. So I told the guy, listen, there's a lot of problems in his house. There's several $1,000s worth of problems in his house. It needs to be fixed. No, it's what you see, what you get. What do you mean? You already moved. If you want. Hey, what do you mean we see what you get? You told me this is a top-notch house. I'm going to pay a couple $1,000s a month for this house. You gave me something that I wouldn't take for free. Long story short, this guy was a dishonest person. Unfortunately, pretended to be a religious Jew. And I ended up having to pay for it. Now, the good news is there's also a Bet Din of Shamayim. Bet Din of Shamayim will take care of it. Hashem send me the money one way or the other. And I'm sure he's going to have to deal with him in a different way. But whatever, it is what it is. People will sometimes cheat you. People will sometimes take advantage of you. Make sure that you're never the cheater. It's best to be the cheated and not the cheater. Even though that sounds opposite. You rather take advantage of other people than people take advantage of you. Remember, there's a Bet Din of Shamayim. The Bet Din of Shamayim, everybody pays the bill there. Everybody pays the bill. Especially at times like this, when people are lying and stealing. They're the first ones that get punished when the time comes. Okay, there's other questions here. Hold on. Okay, no, that's not a question for this. I'm going to try to keep it on topic. Okay, this one's sending a Megillah. Can't read that. No, too long. Short questions, people. Short questions. Don't send me a Megillah. People are sending me messages. It's like 5 paragraphs long. Well, one sentence. One sentence. Okay, it's also long. Okay. Yeah, it's not going to work. You have a question? Go ahead. Ken. To think that you know who the Mashiach is? Whether it's the Rebbe. You want to go straight up. We're sitting in a Chabad and you want to ask if the Rebbe is Mashiach. Okay. Okay, so here's a few things. To to understand the whole issue of wishful thinking, if you will, where people want somebody that they care about, that they look up to be the Mashiach, is not news. It's not the first time we're ever hearing it. It's happened throughout all of history. There's been many people that have declared a certain person to be Mashiach that they were connected to, and some were really righteous people that still ended up not being the Mashiach, and some weren't exactly righteous, but righteous people thought they were Mashiach. Like, for example, Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva thought that Bar Kokhba was going to be the Mashiach because he saw that this person, who was a Jew, had superhuman powers. He literally had superhuman powers. He was able to lift a house, a boulder, that's several tons in weight, which literally is more than a house, in one hand, and throw it faster than a fastball pitcher, and kill thousands of Romans in one shot. This was superhuman power. To make it into Bar Kokhba's army, you also had to have superhuman powers. All of his soldiers were massive people. So when Rabbi Akiva, who was Kodesh Kodeshim, saw such a person, he said, this is what the Torah talks about, the Mashiach having superhuman powers. Even though the Torah says that he doesn't actually hit anyone and throw anything, he simply kills people with his mouth, needless to say, this is superhuman. So he thought that he's a candidate of being Mashiach. Now, many other of the Chachamim at that time said that Rabbi Akiva was wrong, and Rabbi Akiva defended his stance, but he saw eventually that he was wrong. How did he see he was wrong? Bar Kokhba died. When Bar Kokhba died, there's no more argument. Why? Once a person dies, he's no longer eligible to be Mashiach. No more eligible to be Mashiach. Why? He's dead. Why? Mashiach doesn't die. Mashiach Ben Yosef, maybe he's going to die, maybe not. But Ben David doesn't die. So, once he died, that's it, he's no longer Mashiach. Now, how did he die? Bar Kokhba got a lot of winning under his belt. He started taking it to his head and started feeling like he's the one that's winning the battle. So he told HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I'm going to battle here. You don't get involved. Don't bother us. We're not going to bother you. HaShem says to this little peon that thinks he's strong by himself, says, oh, okay, you're by yourself? No problem. Go. You're going to be by yourself. He went to the bathroom. HaShem sent him a little snake to go right where he goes to the bathroom that took out his entire intestines while he's going to the bathroom. Now, the Roman emperor says whoever catches this Bar Kokhba, this warrior, and kills him, I'll give him whatever you want. I'll give you half the kingdom. So some guy that walked into the woods saw this Bar Kokhba dead. So he wanted the reward. So he chopped off his head, and he brought it to the Roman emperor. He goes, I killed him. The Roman emperor says, I want to see the body. He goes, what do you mean? Look at this head. He goes, there's no way that you killed this. He goes, a person with a head like that, a massive head like this, that person, no human being can kill him. I want to see the body before I pay you. So he brought him to the body, and they saw that he's still, but he's still crouching in a position of making waste. So they saw that obviously the guy didn't kill him. It was a snake that killed him. HaShem killed him. So point being is that even Rabbi Akiva made a mistake. Rabbi Akiva, our entire oral Torah depended on Rabbi Akiva and his students. Now, did everybody call Rabbi Akiva a kofar for believing that he's Mashiach? No, he's not. You're not a kofar or a heretic for believing that a certain person is Mashiach. You're a kofar, you're a heretic, if your belief in Mashiach distorts the Torah. That's the problem with the messianics of today. To believe that Bar Kokhba was Mashiach by itself is not kfirah. It's a mistake, but it's not kfirah. It's not going against the 13 principles of faith. What's the mistake that happened in other generations, including right now, is when people turn their belief that a certain person that's alive or dead is Mashiach, starts distorting the Torah. Starts telling people, oh, because this one or that one is Mashiach, you no longer have to worry about keeping Shabbat or keeping this or keeping that because the Rebbe is going to save you or that one's going to save you or this one's going to save you. That's kfirah. That's changing the Torah. That means that belief in that person being the Mashiach has changed and manipulated your belief into a completely different religion. That's a problem. Now, I've already said this to you guys in the past. There are many writings about people that obviously have disagreed with Chabad. Quite frankly, the vast majority of Jews around the world and non-Jews around the world completely have no connection whatsoever to the Rebbe being Mashiach. The only ones that truly believe that the Lubavitcher Rebbe is Mashiach are a large part of Chabad. People that are not Chabad, there's not a single Chacham that's not Chabad that says that the Lubavitcher Rebbe is Mashiach. And that's by itself is a proof that he's not Mashiach. Why? Because one of the conditions of someone being Mashiach is all of Chachmei Yisrael have to agree he's Mashiach. But if only your students or people that claim to be students think you're Mashiach, obviously that's not Chachmei Yisrael. Many of them are Burim v'Amei Aratzot, unfortunately. Many of them don't know anything. So here we see there is a problem with this belief. Next thing is, there is a book, several books. One of them is by Rabbi Gil's student, Talmid Chacham, in the Igud HaRabbanim. He wrote an entire, short sefer, but an entire sefer full of proofs of why the Lubavitcher Rebbe cannot be Mashiach. Not that he's just not Mashiach, he cannot be Mashiach. One of the proofs that he has in his book is the fact that the Lubavitcher Rebbe himself said in one of his sichot that anyone that dies cannot be Mashiach. He himself said it. Because people asked him if Mashiach is going to be. Why can't it be David HaMelech? Why can't David HaMelech, who we know for sure is the grandfather of the Mashiach, why can't David HaMelech be the Mashiach? Why can't he just resurrect? So the Lubavitcher Rebbe, in Likutei Sichot, volume 35, page 206, paragraph number 6, says himself, David HaMelech cannot be Mashiach because he died. And anyone that dies cannot be Mashiach. Needless to say, what the Lubavitcher Rebbe may or may not have realized that he's doing at that time is that he's actually giving his own students that are making a mistake the answer that they need to know, which is that he cannot be Mashiach once he died. Now, when you show this to Chabadniks, that are messianics, what do? Do they change? No. Why don't they change? Because their emunah in the Lubavitcher Rebbe being Mashiach has nothing to do with the Lubavitcher Rebbe. Has nothing to do with Torah, has nothing to do with mitzvot, has nothing to do with HaShem. It has to do with simply their convenience, their agenda. That's all it has to do with. It has nothing to do with Torah and mitzvot, it has nothing to do with anything. It's good for business. You tell people, listen, there's all types of Judaism, but who else has the Mashiach? Automatically, all of the seculars, all of the goyim, all of everybody's going to want to come to you. Why? Because you're saying you have Mashiach. Who's not going to come? On top of that, we accept everyone. Okay, everybody comes. Oh, kumbaya, everybody comes. Point is, Rabotai, it's good for business to have Mashiach under your belt. It's good for business. Secondly, many of these people that believe he's Mashiach and are very vocal about it, unfortunately, are very ignorant about Torah, and they simply do not know basic laws of Torah. So many of them make huge chilul Hashem, huge desecrations of Hashem's name because of what they're doing in regards to their fanaticism of the Rebbe being Mashiach or not being Mashiach. Now, when they simply tell people, right now, you're going to have probably 1,000 comments on YouTube, on Facebook, on my email, and everywhere of different people sending me hate mail. Oh, you hate Chabad, you hate Chabad. This has nothing to do with that. It's the opposite. I love Chabad. But I also love Jews that are normal. Chabad is a holy organization as far as its foundation, as far as everything that it's about. It's perfectly... But that has nothing to do with the Lubavitcher Rebbe being Mashiach. That's a new thing. That's a new thing. That's not... When you started Chabad a few hundred years ago, Lubavitcher Rebbe wasn't even a thought. No one knew he existed. It's a few hundred years ago. This messianic thing is just a new thing. It's not... Don't make people fool you to think that Chabad and the messianic situation are two of the same thing. It's unfortunately many Chabadics believe it, but the two are not the same. The two are not the same. The real Chabad that is Chokhmah, Binah, Vadat, all the chesed that they do, all the good that they do, all that stuff, it's perfectly fine, no problem. But the people that have distorted the Torah based on their flawed beliefs, whether it's because they believe the Rebbe is Mashiach, or because they believe that, I don't know, part of the Torah is cancelled because of some other crazy reason, whatever it is, that's unfortunately not Chabad. That's people that are wrong. So to believe that the Rebbe is Mashiach does not make a person a heretic. They're wrong, but it's not a heretic. To change the Torah because you believe the Rebbe is Mashiach and tell people that they don't need to do Teshuvah anymore and you need to connect to the Rebbe in order to survive Judgment Day or any of that nonsense that changes the Torah, that's heresy. That's a problem. And unfortunately, I've actually heard from several people that have sold themselves their own Kool-Aid, if you will. Sometimes there's a person that sells Kool-Aid, sometimes a person drinks their own Kool-Aid. And one guy that is a Rosh Yeshiva, if you will, that's a messianic, and he teaches his young, innocent students, Jewish students, about his belief that the Rebbe is Mashiach, but he doesn't believe that Mashiach is the same definition like you and I believe. You and I believe what Torah says. Torah says Mashiach is a human being that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to instill the power of God in. Meaning he's going to be able to smell the sins and kill people simply with words. That's what Mashiach means. Mashiach, until HaShem tells him he's Mashiach, is simply a human being that doesn't even know he's Mashiach. Righteous, Shomer Torah and mitzvot, some say he's going to be Baal Teshuvah, whatever it is, point being is, he's a regular human being, flesh and blood, born of a woman. And as a father, there's flesh and blood. Now we're not Christianity. Now, that's what we believe about Mashiach. That's in all the Sfarim, that's in the Nevi'im and so on. Now, unfortunately, some people have shown us what Christianity developed into 2,000 years ago. Many people ask, how did Christianity develop? Christianity started with Judaism. The original founders of Christianity are Jews that went off into something completely different and changed it and manipulated and eventually completely made a whole new religion. The students of Christianity initially were ignorant Jews. Now, what happened? At some point along the way, they made somebody into God. Who? Yoshke. Unfortunately, we don't need history and books to tell us this. We're seeing it in front of our eyes because this Rosh Yeshiva in New York, he believes that the Rebbe is God. Meaning his definition of Mashiach is not the definition of Mashiach that's in the Torah. His definition of Mashiach is that Mashiach means God, which is actually the definition that Messianic Jews have of Mashiach. Don't believe the Messianic Jews, which are generally Christian people, just calling themselves Jews, don't believe that their definition of Mashiach is the same thing as us. They believe that Mashiach means God. They don't believe that Mashiach means a person. Like, they don't abandon Christianity by saying that they're Messianic Jews. There's no difference whatsoever between Messianic Judaism and Christianity. It's just a different name. So, the Christians have in their false testament, the New Testament, that they believe that Jesus is God. That's what they believe. Messianic Jews, if you go deep into the roots of it, you go into the people that actually know what they're talking about as far as their belief, they believe that he's Messiah, but Messiah means God. Unfortunately, we have some of our own brothers and sisters that believe that the Rebbe became God, became one with God. I have recordings of this, of one very famous Chabadnik. He's in Los Angeles giving a preach to people, telling people that the Rebbe runs the world. So this is kfirah. This is a person that's a heretic. Why? It's a person that's an idol worshiper. Does not mean that all of Chabad is bad? Absolutely not. We are right now sitting in a Chabad. There's no problem with this Chabad. There's no problem with Chabad in general. There's a problem with people that are taking the Chabad name and destroying it. and making it into something that it's not. Now, even if somebody wants to believe that the Rebbe is Mashiach, like I said, that by itself is not heresy. It's a problem if that belief changes the Torah, though. That's when it becomes a problem. And for most cases that I've seen, I'm only saying most because I want to be generous, it's actually all cases. Most cases that I've seen, people that believe that the Rebbe is Mashiach or some other person is Mashiach, generally that also influences their understanding of the Torah also, which is a problem. That's a problem. Next question. Hello, yes.
What if a Jewish person believes that JC is the Messiah, but they believe that the New Testament's fake? I actually had a guy on Facebook tell me once that he believes that JC is the Messiah, but he doesn't believe in the New Testament.
That's a crazy person, and there's special institutions for crazy people in America, in Israel, all over the world, I'm not fit to help crazy people. A person that wants to believe in Yoshke and Jesus, but doesn't believe in the New Testament, is simply the definition of crazy. And the reason why is because there are only two documents in existence that discuss Yoshke. One is the New Testament, two is the Gemara. That's it. Nothing else ever discusses Yoshke. Now, if you believe the Gemara, that means that you believe Jesus is not only not the Messiah, but he's actually the worst person on the planet. He's the foundation of all the tum'ah that's in the world, and he's in Gehenom for eternity. Why? Because he went against the rabbis. He went against the sages. This is actually agreed upon in the New Testament. He goes against the rabbis. It's not like the Gemara created this. He actually himself says he's going against the rabbis. Now, but in the New Testament, the other document talks about him. They turn him into God. So you have to pick. If you don't believe in the Gemara, because Gemara says he's in the Gehenom, so you have to believe in the New Testament. Oh, you don't believe in the New Testament, so you don't believe he's God. So you don't believe in anything. But yeah, you believe he existed, then you're simply crazy. It's like me saying, I believe Pikachu is the Mashiach. It's just stupid. It's just a dumb thing. I mean, I can't help people like that. I can't. I mean, you have to have, your belief has to have some substance. Why do you believe this person even existed? What gives you this? What gives you the reason it existed? Oh, where I read in a book. What book? Oh, the New Testament? Okay, so you believe in the New Testament. No, I don't believe in the New Testament. Okay, so you believe he existed. You believe all the things, but you don't believe it. It's just a person that's either too ignorant to even deal with or too crazy to deal with. Needless to say, the answer that you have right now is the most that we can go into. I cannot help them any further than that. They're too crazy for me, even for me. Chavod, next question.
I just want to ask, what Rebbe cannot be Mashiach for a simple reason is because, for what you mentioned,
Okay.
also that if he was a Mashiach, all this bad in the world would stop. So
Ken, there are certain conditions.
simple thing is just ignorant to say.
100%. There's certain conditions. The Gemara says, and also the
most secular Israelis will tell you.
Ken, I mean, it's again. There's an entire section in the Gemara that discusses the times of Mashiach. There is a entire section in the Rambam in Ilchot Melachim that discusses the times of Mashiach, the conditions of what will have to take place in the world. There will have to be world peace. The Jews will have to be righteous, and so on and so forth. A lot of good things have to happen in the world. Quite frankly, there's not much good happening right now. There's Jews being murdered every day. So if this is what the time of Mashiach looks like, I think we're all better off in Gehenom. So what good is happening here? Obviously, the Mashiach has not arrived. So the point being is that anyone that wants to believe that their rabbi is Mashiach or someone is Mashiach, I understand that it's wishful thinking. I understand people want to be hopeful. I understand all of that stuff. But again, we have to remember that as Jews, we are obligated to have a source for everything that we do. We have to have a source, a legitimate, unbiased source for everything that we do. Now you're going to say, yeah, but they have sources that he's Mashiach. Why? What? And you see some of these sources that they have, it's simply craziness. Simply craziness. Like when one of the celebrations, they start singing Mashiach and he nods his head. Now, what they don't tell you is that this is after he already had I believe it was a stroke, and he lost control of his body for the most part. This is shortly before he died. And all he could do is shake his head. But it's sick people that have turned their rabbi into avodah zarah, but on top of it into business. It's despicable behavior. But like I told you, it's good for business, it's good for money. You tell people, we have the Mashiach in our house, over here in every house. They're going to come. Why? Because people want Mashiach, because they have no idea what it means. There's a place in Moscow. There's a place in Moscow that's a Chabad. They have a room. No one's allowed it. Why? That's where the Rebbe studies. So apparently the Rebbe is also in Moscow. But they also have the same type of room in New York, and they have the same room in Seattle. They have the same type of room in a lot of different places. In a lot of places. It flies around all over the place. I mean, this is craziness. So, Rabotai, this is chash v'shalom, never anything against Chabad. People that call me a Chabad hater are simply stupid. They're simply dumb. I love all Jews, even if you're secular. All my life, all that I do all day, all night is try to help Jews for free. Whether you're secular, whether you're anything you are, as long as you're not a machtia rabim, as long as you don't get people to sin on purpose, I'll do anything I can to help you. So to say I hate a certain part of Am Yisrael or something, that's just simply ignorant and retarded. But we have a Mesorah, we have a Torah that tells us how do we make decisions? How do we know Aleph Bet? How do we know everything? Everything we say has to have a source. And when our Torah tells us that at the time of Mashiach there's going to be certain things that have to happen, and that Mashiach has to have certain qualities and do certain things, and your guy, your hero doesn't meet those qualifications, guess what? He's not Mashiach. He's not Mashiach. That's it. It's now when your hero himself says he's not Mashiach and writes it, and you don't want to believe him, that shows to me that it's not about him. It's about you. It's not about him being Mashiach. It's about you wanting him to be Mashiach because it serves your purpose. I had a guy that I sent him this paper. I showed him. Listen, the Lubavitcher Rebbe himself says he's not Mashiach. He wrote it here. He goes, yeah, but maybe he didn't mean that. I said, okay, so you're saying that he's your idol, he's your superhero, but you're going against what he says. You don't want to, It's craziness. So again, Rabotai, it's important to know. As an organization, Chabad does a lot of good. But that does not mean that they don't have any mistakes. Everybody has mistakes. Everybody has errors. We as Jews have to know the difference between someone that's mistaken and someone that's a heretic. Someone that's a mistaken simply believes that somebody that they like is the Mashiach. That's a mistake. That does not make you a evil villain. It's a mistake though. But a heretic, which is someone you cannot count in the minyan, someone that you cannot listen to their shiurim, someone that you simply have to disassociate with, is someone that has their belief manipulate the Torah. When their belief in someone being the Mashiach is telling them that from now on, the only mitzvah you need to do is give tzedakah. You don't have to keep Shabbat though. From now on, you don't have to keep Shabbat. You don't have to do this. You don't have to do that. They change the Torah. That's a problem. That is a heretic. And unfortunately, people that steer away from the Torah, little by little, they end up like this. They end up like it. And that's why many times when you hear a lot of terrible stories of Chilul Hashem from the religious world, it always comes from the same places where you see that people that have distorted the Torah already from before that happened. You see, religious guy, a chassid, caught drug dealing. Like, what? What does drug dealing have to do with chassidut? Like, what do you mean? How could that be? That means he wasn't really a chassid. He pretended to be a chassid. He looks like a chassid. He acts like a chassid as far as the exterior, but inside he's a complete evil person. He's a drug dealer. So, again, you have to understand there's a emet and then there's sheker. Sheker sometimes looks like emet. Yes?
In our Siddur, we read every day. It says, I'll put you in four corners of the earth,
Ken.
and then I will gather. This is happening right now.
Question?
That's the question. It's already because
It's been happening. It's been happening already for some time.
The last 10 years, but in U.S. it's starting to speed up.
Okay, it's happening everywhere. There's a
About North America, which is Canada and U.S. being next.
it's
It was a year ago.
the world is heating up. There's a lot of things that are happening economically, politically, religiously, all types of things that are happening in the world right now. The only thing, as we talked about for the last couple of hours, the only thing that is going to help us is Avinu Shebashamayim. The Gemara says that the Talmidim of Rabbi Eliezer ben Horkenos come to him and ask him, what about the time of Mashiach? He says there's going to be a lot of problems during that time. The world is going to be upside down. They're going to hate the emet. They're going to hate people that speak the emet. There's going to be hyperinflation in the world. There's going to be major financial crisis, and so on and so forth. And he talks about a lot of different things, and he simply gives a picture of the world that's very, very similar to what we have today already, if not identical. And his students that understood that everything he says is sealed, meaning it's not like he's not assuming, hoping, cursing, or otherwise. He's simply telling you exactly what's going to happen. And he says to them, I wish for the Mashiach to come, but just not during the time that I'm alive. Because I myself, he says, Rabbi Yaron Reuven says, I myself am too scared to live at that time. So the Talmidim ask him, so what's going to save us during that time? He says, what we're going to have? He says, you're going to have, anyone's going to have emunah in HaShem, they're going to have to rely on HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Avinu Shebashamayim. He goes, yeah, but what can we do? What can we do to help our cause? He says, Torah and Gemilut Chasadim. He says, you have to make sure that your emunah and bitachon, your yirat shamayim, your learning of Torah, your mitzvot, all of those things are fixed. They're good. You're the best you possibly can be. You got to make mistakes, no questions asked. Everyone makes mistakes, but don't be one of these people that gives themselves an excuse. Just one time. Just 10 times. This one thing I'm not going to do. Like, if you still watch movies, if you still watch television on a regular basis, if you still watch pornography, HaShem Yachem, if you don't watch your eyes on a regular basis, if you are in a unethical business, if you are violating Shabbat on a regular basis, if you're cheating on your husband or wife, if you're cheating in business, if this is part of your life, you have no chance in the world. No chance in the world. Why? You have made the sin a part of your life, not something that you do here and there and you fall. Meaning your whole life is one big sin. Now, if you're trying to do teshuvah for everything, but once in a while you fall. Once in a while you do something that's not exactly the most kosher. Once in a while you accidentally forget something. Whatever it is, okay, that makes you normal. But if sin is your life, sin is your business, sin is your marriage, sin is simply who you and what you are, you have no chance in the world. Nothing in the world is going to help you. Why? Because the Kadosh Baruch Hu is emet, v'chotamo is emet, his signature is emet. He's not going to have his own permission to save you when you're full of filth. Now, Torah that we have means you have to learn Torah every day, a little bit every day. In the morning, at night. If you're just starting out, 15 minutes in the morning, 15 minutes at night. If you're already religious, you should be learning at least a couple hours a day. If you have more time, if you're a student, if you're young, if you have less responsibilities, much more. Point being is that you have to learn Torah every day. Do mitzvot every day. Learn musar every day. All of these things you need to do. So that's the Torah part. So Rabbi Eliezer ben Horkenos says, okay, that's Torah, but you also Gemilut Chasadim. Overwhelming kindness. What is the overwhelming kindness? There's different type of kindness that you could do for people. You can give somebody a ride to the SHIUR. You could give somebody challah for Shabbat. You can give all types of things. But the highest level of kindness that a person can do for another is kiruv. It's help them do teshuvah, help them get closer to HaShem. That's the highest level of kindness that you can do. And the reason why is because even if, let's say, you're collecting $1 million because, chas v'shalom, someone is sick. And one person says, you know what do you need, $1 million? Here's $1 million, cash. Go get yourself the cure, kid. Go. Good luck. Now, let's say the cure works. And the person is healthy now. What did you do? You saved his life in this world. That's the most you did. You saved his life in this world. You gave him some food, he ate, he lived a little longer in this world. But if he lived against HaShem, then all you did for him is save him in this world, but that's it. Whereas if you helped this person do Teshuvah, because you donated for Kiruv, you gave him a CD, you shared a lecture, you introduced him to a lecture, you brought him to a lecture, you introduced this person to HaShem, and that person started doing Teshuvah because of you, guess what? Even if that person dies in 5 or 10 years from now, you just got him eternity. And that's why the belief in eternity is, although it's simply beyond our logic, it's part of the foundation of Judaism. Without eternity, it's impossible to be a righteous Jew. Because if this is the only world we're going to live in, then everyone's just going to be a criminal. We have to believe in eternity because we know that eternity is when we really get paid. Now, if you are going to help a person do Teshuvah, you yourself are going to do Teshuvah, you know that regardless of what happens to you in this life, your payment is going to be eternal, forever. So it's worth it, a little suffering. It's worth it to have a little less money. It's worth it to have a little bit less pleasure, if you will, or at least it looks like you have a little less pleasure. It's worth it to make all these sacrifices because my payment is eternity. But if my payment was only in this world, then no one would survive. No one would survive. Last question. If you have something from the internet, you have something from the internet, or finished? You have something from the internet. Go ahead from the internet. They're not related? It's really, okay, something related to the topic, and then we'll finish.
She asked, are there any end of days prophecies specific to America is the nation of tyrants, opening God, and
Yes. Are there any specific prophecies that talk about America being in the Tanakh and so on? Now, it doesn't say America, so don't look for the word America in the Tanakh. That's not going to be something that you find, at least not from the literal aspect of it. You may find it in code, but you're not going to necessarily find it in a literal language. America didn't exist back then. Now, it says in the prophet Jeremiah and several other places, chapter 16, verse number 14, 15, it says, לכן, הנה ימים באים נאום אדוני ולא יאמר עוד חי אדוני אשר העלה את בני ישראל מארץ מצרים כי אם חי אדוני אשר העלה את בני ישראל מארץ צפון ומכל הארצות אשר הדיחם שמה והשיבותים על אדמתם אשר נתתי לאבותם. However, behold, days are coming. This is talking about the times of Mashiach, the word of HaShem, when it will no longer be said, as HaShem lives, who took out the children of Israel from the land of Egypt, but rather as HaShem lives, who took out the children of Israel from the land of the north, and from all the lands where he has scattered them, and I shall return them to their land which I gave to their forefathers. Now, what does this have to do with America? Now, if you look at the world today, now some people are going to say, yeah, it's referring to Bavel. Maybe in its time it was talking about Bavel, but obviously anything that's written in the Torah is for eternity. It's not just for the time. What's the source? Gemara, Masechet Megillah, says that Am Yisrael had at least double the amount of people men that left Egypt as prophets, meaning we had at least 1.2 million prophets in the history of Am Yisrael. So the Gemara says, well, we only have the Torah and the story of 55 of them. The entire Tanakh, 24 books of the Tanakh, only has 55 prophets mentioned in there. So where are the other 1.2 million? It says the prophecies of the rest of them are not included in the Tanakh because their prophecies only pertain to the times that they lived, which means that all of the things that are mentioned in the Tanakh are relevant for eternity. So although the pshat, the basic meaning of the pasuk is referring potentially to Babel, to Babylon, which is Iraq, which was the north and that time, it's no longer pertaining to that because that country is insignificant today. It's pertaining to a land of the north. Now, what is called north in the world? Now, we have continents in the world. We have continents. Now, these continents, there's not 1,000 continents, 7 continents. There's only one continent out of all the continents that's called North, and that's North America. There's South America and there's North America. Now, North America, now that sounds interesting. North, Tzafon, sounds cool, right? But there's something interesting, even more interesting than this chidush that we got some years ago, Baruch Hashem, is that the following, is that it says that Hashem is going to make greater miracles at the time of Mashiach than he did at the time of Egypt, to the extent that he's no longer going to be called the God that saved Am Yisrael from Egypt, but rather the God that saved Israel from the land of the north and the other lands. Meaning there's going to be more miracles. But what does it uniquely say here? It says that he's going to save us from the land of the north and all of the other lands. Why doesn't it just say he's going to save us from everywhere? Why don't you just say, if he's going to say all the other lands, why don't you just say all the other lands? Why do you specifically mention the land of the north? Because, Rabotai Karim, right now we have approximately 15 million Jews that we know about. Almost half of them are in North America. Combination of America, the United States, and Canada. There's approximately 500,000 or so in Canada, and somewhere around 6 million in the United States. So that's 6.5 million Jews. Almost half of the Jewish population in the world is where? The land of the north, North America. That's what it says. He's going to save us from where he's going to take us from? The land of the north. So, and then the rest of the places. Why? Because there are also Jews in Australia, there are Jews in Africa, there are Jews in South America, there are Jews everywhere else. But he specifically mentioned this. So this, Rabotai, is one of the things that's mentioned in the Torah about America. Now, does that mean that everybody has to run away from America right now? Like I said in the beginning of the shiur, it's not going to help you. In order to determine whether you should do Aliyah or not, it should not be based on whether you believe Mashiach is coming tomorrow or not. It's simply based on your life. Now, whether Mashiach is going to come tomorrow or not is not going to help you if you're located in Israel or not. It's not going to help you. What's going to help you is if you did Teshuvah already, if you're serious about HaShem, if you're serious about Torah. So, now, if you are going to become much more religious, much closer to the Torah in Israel, and you could still make a living over there, and it's not going to ruin your shlom bayit, your wife agrees, your husband agrees, if you have those criteria met, meaning you're able to make a living over there, you're able to learn as much or more Torah over there, and it's not going to create any shlom bayit problems for you, you should move to Israel tomorrow. Tomorrow you should move. No questions asked. But if your situation does not meet those requirements, meaning if you have a good job over here, and over there you simply have nothing. Now, even though your wife or your husband may want to go, and even though your rabbi may be located in Israel right now, if you don't know how you're going to make a living over there, then great that you have emunah, but you have to also think, how big is this emunah that you have, and how big is this emunah the rest of your family has? If you have a savings, then go. But if you don't have a savings, and you have no way, you're going to pretty much go homeless 2 months later, then there's no point of going there. Situate yourself a little bit better, set up a certain job over there, set up a certain business that you can make money while you're over there, and then move. There's no hurry. Like I said, it's critical that you understand that. The hurry is to do teshuvah, not to move. To move is also based on certain circumstances. Now, if, let's say, for example, money is not a problem for you. Torah is not a problem because there's rabbis over there, there's rabbis over here, and so on. That's not a problem for you. But your spouse, under no condition, is willing to leave her family over here. She's not willing to move to Eretz Yisrael because her family's over here, and she's gonna, lose her mind, go into depression if you move her to Eretz Yisrael. Guess what? You're not allowed to move. Not that you shouldn't move. You're not allowed to move and create havoc in your house with your wife or your husband for the sake of moving to Eretz Yisrael. In fact, one of the few conditions that you're allowed to leave Eretz Yisrael is for the sake of a wife, is for the sake of marriage. Needless to say, you're not allowed to destroy your marriage for the sake of moving. So people that move to Eretz Yisrael and ruin their marriage at the same time are simply not listening to the Torah, they're listening to their heart. We don't determine halakha based on heart. There's a woman that lived here in Florida, and she decided that Mashiach is coming tomorrow. She watched one too many shiurim about Mashiach, nothing else, and she abandoned her kids and her husband because no one else wanted to come with her, and she took her entire life savings. She bought a house in Yerushalayim or somewhere in Israel, and pretty much destroyed her whole house. Our kids pretty much just left completely the derech. Our husband completely left everything, but she was happy that she lives in Eretz Yisrael. Now, is this a righteous person? No. In Shemaim, they're going to call her a shait. Call her a shait. You're going to call her wicked. Why? Who told you to ruin your house? For the sake of moving to Eretz Yisrael. So, that's another thing. Now, third thing is, what about Torah? If, let's say, your rabbi is here. Your rabbi is here, but over there you don't know anybody. Parnasah, maybe yes, maybe no. You have to ask your rabbi, is it okay for you to move? Maybe you can get his Torah anyway, maybe you could this, maybe you could that, maybe connect you with somebody. Don't be in a hurry to move. Be in a hurry to do Teshuvah. That's the most critical. Be in a hurry to do Teshuvah immediately. Immediately do Teshuvah. People have these false hopes and things, and to such an extent that they say Be'ezrat Hashem about everything except what they're supposed to. We'll finish with this story. Rabbi Eliyahu Lepian was one of the Gedolei Israel about 150 years ago. No, I'm sorry, 100 years ago. He died actually 50 years ago. He's one of the Gedolei Israel, one of the people that was a big name in the Musar world, but also a big name in the entire Jewish world because he's one of the few people that had a real Gilu Eliyahu. He saw Eliyahu Navi several times. Now a lot of people imagine that they are Eliyahu Navi, or they're Mashiach, or they saw something, but in reality all they saw is their own shadow. This is a person that really saw Eliyahu Navi. Now, to give you an understanding of who we're dealing with, it's said about Rabbi Eliyahu Lepian that he never turned his head. He never went like this without having an actual reason that he determined in his head of why he should turn his head. Now, whether this is a real story or exaggerated, I don't know. All I know is they don't tell those stories about us. That we don't turn our heads unless we think about it. Why? Because all of us turn our heads non-stop. Everything moves. Phone rang, something. Something. We're constantly moving everywhere. It's like you feel like sometimes I give a shiur, sometimes I go to different crowds, give a shiur, and I feel like I'm giving a shiur to Stevie Wonder. It's like this the whole time. Everybody's looking everywhere. Somebody goes in, everybody looks. Somebody goes out, everybody looks. And the Shem Yachem, there's a bathroom next to the place. Every time. All the time. Rabbi Eliyahu Lepian didn't do any of this nonsense. He didn't turn his head unless he had a reason to, that he calculated in his head. One of his Talmidim, this Ish Kodesh, this Malach Hashem, one of his Talmidim came to him and says, Kvod Harav, I think it's time for me to leave the yeshiva, to leave the kollel, and go work. He says, why you want to go work? For what? You have Torah, Kadosh Baruch Hu loves the Torah. Why should you go work? Because Kvod Harav, I need to go make money. Because what do you need to make money for? Your parents are paying $100 a month for you to learn every month. You don't need anything. What do you need? You're learning, you have a place, you have food, everything is good for you. What do you need to go make money for? Go learn Torah, Kadosh Baruch Hu loves Torah. Because but Kvod Harav, I need to go find myself a wife. to get married. So Rabbi Eliyahu the Pian says, looks at the student and says, who says you're going to find a wife? The student is shocked. The biggest rabbi in the world is telling him, who says you're going to find a wife? He goes, Kvod Harav, are you cursing me? Are you cursing me, Kvod Harav? I mean, why? Because I'm leaving Torah? I'm not a kofar. He goes, no, Chas v'shalom, who's cursing you? I'm just asking you a question. You're saying you're leaving to go find a wife. Who said to you that you're going to find a wife? He goes, oh, look, Kvod Harav, Be'ezrat Hashem, I'll find a wife. Everybody finds a wife. Be'ezrat Hashem, I'll find a wife. He goes, oh, okay, that's the question. So what do you need the money for anyway? Okay, so the wife, what, the wife needs a lot of money? Maybe her family has some money. We need the money. He goes, no, Kvod Harav, listen, I have a wife. We're going to need to get a house. We have kids. The kids need money. Diapers, this, that, materna, all these food stuff. The kids don't stop eating and pooping and eating, pooping. And you have to pay for all of it. So Rabbi Eliyahu the Plan says to him, who guarantees you're going to have any kids? The guy has a shock of his life. The biggest rabbi in the world is telling him, maybe he's not going to have any kids. Shem Yirachem. He goes, Kvod Harav, why are you cursing me? He goes, I'm not cursing you. He goes, Kvod Harav, why are you cursing me? He goes, I'm not cursing you. Because you just said I'm not going to have any kids. I didn't say you're not going to have any kids. I just said, who said you're going to have kids? He goes, oh no, Kvod Harav, Be'ezrat Hashem. Everybody has Be'ezrat Hashem, will have kids. So Rabbi Eliyahu Plan says to him, I don't understand you. You said that you're going to need to go make money because you need to get the wife, and the wife needs money because you need the house, and the house you're going to, do with the kids, and the kids need the money, and all of this is going to happen Be'ezrat Hashem. He goes, yeah. So, wait, so Be'ezrat Hashem you're going to find a wife, Be'ezrat Hashem you're going to find a house, Be'ezrat Hashem you're going to have kids. So how come this Hashem, this Be'ezrat Hashem that you say can't work on learning Torah when this Hashem actually writes in his Torah that he loves Torah more than anything else? How come he can't give you parnasah and the wife and the house and the husband and the kids and everything else that you want without you leaving the yeshiva? How come Be'ezrat Hashem only works outside of the yeshiva? You see, Rabotai, sometimes our emotions manipulate our judgment so much that we simply create new beliefs. We say Be'ezrat Hashem on things that we want instead of the things that we need. And we simply, eliminate what the Torah says. Whether your rabbi is Mashiach or not, whether your rabbi was Mashiach, is Mashiach, all that stuff doesn't matter. Either way, you have to do Teshuvah. Whether you live in Eretz Yisrael or not, you live in America or not, you live in Chile, you live in Uruguay, you live in Russia, you live wherever you are, doesn't matter. You still got to do Teshuvah. Whether you're rich or you're poor, you have money to buy books, or you have to borrow books, or you have to get them from the internet for free, doesn't matter. You still got to do Teshuvah. Whether you're male or female, you're tall, you're short, you're black or white or green or burgundy, doesn't matter. You still got to do Teshuvah. Whether there's anti-Semitism or there isn't, and there's murdering Jews on the streets, or they're not murdering, Baruch Hashem, or whatever they're doing, doesn't matter. You still got to do Teshuvah. Meaning that regardless of what happens in the world, our obligation doesn't change. We have to do Teshuvah. And one of the critical parts of Klal Yisrael doing Teshuvah is not only worrying about our own tuchis, but also our brothers and sisters. You have to start worrying about yourself, you doing whatever you need to do to keep Shabbat, keep Tarat Mishpacha, Kama Brit, all of the halachot, learning every day, but also circle. The people around you, the people not around you, the people you know, the people you don't know. You have to start worrying about Klal Yisrael. Why? That's our only ticket. That's our only ticket to protect ourselves from what is potentially coming. You want to get out of jail free card? Despite all of the sins you've made? You want to get out of jail free card despite all the problems that technically have your name on it? You have to start worrying about Klal Yisrael. If you're going to continue donating all of your hard-earned money to Hanukkah parties and Chalot and Starbucks and all types of crazy things, and you're not going to donate for Klal Yisrael to do Teshuvah, then guess what, Rabotai? that Gemara that I read to you is going to happen again. And that's why in this week's parasha, Parashat Vayigash, when the brothers of Yosef finally realize that it is Yosef that's the king, when Yosef says, I am Yosef, Aod Avi Chai, is my father still alive? It says, V'lo yachlu echav la'anot oto ki niv'alu mipanav. But the brothers could not answer him because they were left disconcerted before him. The Gemara says, what do you mean they couldn't answer Yosef? The Gemara says they all died from shock of what reality they really had to deal with. They realized that their brother is alive and he's the Viceroy. They died from shock. And on that the sages say, Oy lanu miyom adin, Oy lanu miyom tochecha. Woe to us on the day of judgment, woe to us on a day of rebuke, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives each and every single one of us the judgment we deserve for all the things that we did. If the brothers of Yosef died from fear of their own brother, what will we do when we see the King of Kings, the Melech Malchei Amlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu, when we know that we violated Shabbat and we looked at girls and we did things that are illegal and we did this and we did that? What are we going to say? What are we going to say, Rabotai? The only thing that's going to save us is if we help Hashem's other children do Teshuvah. Why? Because we ourselves are trying our best, but we still 50-50. We still make mistakes. How do we make up for those mistakes? How do we show up to the Bet Din of Shamayim? How do we show up to the Bet Din of Shamayim with those mistakes? What, do you think Hashem is a flyer? He's just going to let those things go? Only way, Rabotai, is if we say, listen, Hashem, I'm not perfect. I'm not perfect. But I brought 1,000 of your children with me. I'm not perfect. I kept Shabbat. I didn't do anything. I didn't drive on a valet on Shabbat. I didn't do anything, right? But I made some mistakes here and there. I made mistakes. I'm not perfect. But, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, 1,000 of your kids you were waiting for 3,000 years, I brought them with me. Now you have something to talk about. Now you have something to talk about. And this, Rabotai, is why I tell you, I beg you, for yourself, you have to take this seriously, because anti-Semitism is not going to stop. It's not going to stop. There's ups and downs throughout all of history. The only thing that can change is us. Let's not repeat the mistakes of yesteryear. Let's not repeat the mistakes of 2,000 years ago, or of 7 years ago, or of yesterday. Let's at least learn from the past. Let's not be the stupid fools that know everything but do nothing about it. Let's do whatever we can. You have money, use it for kiruv. You don't have money? Okay, use some other talent, some other ability, some other form of time. If your number one investment is houses and not kiruv, you're simply not getting my point. If your number one concern is your retirement and living on the beach, you're not getting my point. Watch the lecture again from the beginning. Rewind, start again. If you're concerned of your pleasure in this world still, and you're more concerned about buying another watch or another dress or another pair of $500 shoes or something else, if that's your concern still tomorrow, and you're not at least making kiruv like your number one priority in your life, you're not getting the point. And then HaKadosh Baruch Hu has to deal with all of that. Why do that to yourself? Why do that to yourself? Give yourself the present of simply restructuring your responsibilities. Be'ezrat Hashem, this gives each one of us the right perspective, the right understanding of what our job and what our role is in this world. And Be'ezrat Hashem, we help all of Klal Yisrael do Teshuvah and get closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu in heaven. Baruch Adonai Le'olam. Amen ve'amen.